Chapter 452. He paused for a moment then continued writing. Ophiuchus Constellation is a broken-down gold-ranked martial artist. What can he do? Xueli said in disdain. He knew of Master Bing's opposition and knew of Master Bing's worries. The two of them were martial artists from the Yifan family. The lady was called Xueli and the man was Ajigu. Their position was the closest to Three Spirit City, so they were sent by the family. Furthermore, Three Spirit City and Tang Tian of Ursa Major Constellation had an unclear relationship. The Battle of Ursa Major Constellation, the mechanical armies that appeared, were all directed at Three Spirit City, because only Three Spirit City could manufacture and produce so many mechanical spirit weapons. The Yifan family was feared and Tang Tian was not an ordinary person. Is it Master Tang Yi? Someone probed, his gaze landing on the Zanbato in Tang Yi's hand. Other than a few secret places, the majority of the base was open to him. Hua Qinyun was not stupid, he knew that the other party was displaying his strength, but it was enough to show the other party's confidence. Hey, they have a gold-ranked martial artist called Qi Guang Right and another called Duan Mu is also very powerful. Ajigu put on an act. A lowly spirit, but I still want to fight alongside you. Three Spirit City Bronze Base. A master of a constellation actually dared to use the Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique. A person who was so cruel and ruthless to himself, how could he be provoked? Originally, the 10 Equatorial Palace halls had a few constellations that were ready to make a move, but because of Tang Tian's Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique, they did not dare to make a move. I have already been bestowed with unparalleled power. I have already been bestowed with pride. My Zanbato has already been sharpened like snow. How can I retreat? How can I dodge? How can I fear battle? Hua Qinyun was filled with disdain towards Yifan's actions, and furthermore the death of Sai Lei's mother was suspicious to him. He acted as though he did not know anything about the Yifan family. And he knew that the cooperation with the Bronze Base was directly related to the development of the higher-ups. Although the Yifan family was powerful, but on such a matter the alliance would definitely not give in. A low reply came out through the lingering killing intent. Tang Yi, who was clad in armor, wielded his Zanbato and turned to leave. All of the mechanical spirit weapons that were training in the training grounds stopped. There were no lights below the city gates, but the figure that was not considered tall or big attracted everyone's attention. The bronze door opened and a majestic figure appeared in front of the three. He did not expect Sai Lei to become a mechanical grandmaster, so Ivan came to find him. In the current era, mechanical grandmaster engineers were extremely rare and top-notch talents. Furthermore, they were the ones who created the mechanical spirit weapons, the grandmaster engineers who led the ancient domain of mechanical techniques back to its former glory. Behind the lingering black mist, Tang Yi opened his eyes and ordered in a low and stern voice, "Open the door." Tang Yi paused for a moment. Yes. The sound of the feathered armor passed through the passage, passed through the martial spirit palace and entered the base. The people in the underground room all revealed astonished and awe-inspiring gazes. That thick killing intent, that snow-white Zamadeo. But the current Ursa Major constellation with the 4 constellations as one was definitely a tyrant with huge potential. This was destined to be an unfair battle. Even the strand of martial soul that was extracted was many times stronger than his. His martial spirit's grade was too low and his starting point was too low. To him, this unfair battle was like him overestimating his own capabilities and digging his own grave. "Stop talking nonsense," Xueli said coldly. She stopped. He looked at Tang Yi in front of him, his emotions unable to calm down. Whoosh whoosh. 07 Army Barracks, Spirit Chamber. Hua Qinyun was writing a report. In the current mechanical domain, Sai Lei's reputation was catching up to the ancient grandmasters. One man holding the pass, 10,000 cannot break through. Tang Yi acted as though he did not see anything. He raised his blade and walked up the stairs, walking up. The surrounding mechanical martial artists all revealed relieved expressions. The martial artist just now asked curiously, "Master Tang Yi, this is?" Beneath the 30 tall bronze door, a fierce general in armor stood with his blade, guarding the gate alone. Xueli snorted, "Negotiate? Very simple, destroy the base and bring the little slut back. Master Gray's anger will naturally be appeased. I said before that I would bring them to soar in this era. I said before that I would bring them to leave behind achievements that will be passed down by others. I said before that I would lead the way and block in front of all of you. Tang Yi continued to walk forward without turning his head, until he reached the big door and stopped. But to absorb 2 unique spirit cards consecutively, it was simply inconceivable. Bing still could not believe it. But he did not want to give up at all. The heavy and sturdy bronze door slowly opened. How can I be left behind by all of you? How can I be of less and less help to all of you? How can I watch the enemy become stronger while my blade becomes duller and duller? Behind the bronze door, the sound of the feathered armor colliding brought with it a desolate killing intent. Tang Yi, who was covered in armor, wielding the zanbato, was like a fierce general that walked out from an ancient battlefield. 2 unique spirit cards. Tang Yi had absorbed 2 spirit general cards. Bing's emotions surged. He knew that it was not easy. Tang Yi's talent in his eyes had always been the lowest. Every step was extremely difficult. The clash between spirits did not have any fancy tricks. It was a direct clash of willpower, beliefs, and the weaker ones could only crumble and dissipate. He had specially spent some effort on Sai Lei's matter, and found out the whole story, causing him to despise the Yifan family even more. Sai Lei's matter was not a secret. It was just that her mother's family had declined and passed away due to illness in the 2nd year. An even more prestigious new mother married in, and Sai Lei was chased out of the family. His enemy was once an outstanding person, a dazzling genius of that era, a person who had left his name in that era. Too impudent. The lady who spoke was roughly 30 years old, had a capable look, her gaze cold. When has our Yifan family ever suffered such humiliation? It was not easy to obtain a life. How can I let it go to waste? He patiently waited for the discussion to end. Under the bright lights, the clattering sounds of feathered armors passed through one training ground after another. The mechanical martial artists who were training all stopped. Now, Major, please guard the base. Anyone who dares to barge into the base will be killed on the spot. Their success in grooming echelons is admirable. On the training ground, I met an outstanding mechanical martial artist. He is extremely young, roughly 14 years old. He is one of the recipients of the base's scholarship. He is filled with anticipation for joining the mechanical army in the future. Not only him, his companions are the same. They are filled with yearning to join the mechanical army. There is a very important reason, because only by joining the mechanical army can they have the chance to control the latest model of mechanical spirit weapons. To mechanical martial artists, this is extremely attractive. The founder of the bronze base had a complete plan and completely followed the standard of a military fort. Heh. Bing, who was waiting outside the door, suddenly felt something. He suddenly opened his eyes, his face revealing a look of anticipation. After writing the report, he knew that this report was undoubtedly a big bomb, but the things he had seen and heard in this period of time gave him a strong impulse. A silent roar reverberated behind the bronze door. Tang Yi's entire body trembled, his face contorted sinisterly, the black mist seeping into his body. Although the spirit hall could extract the martial spirit from the spirit card, but it was unable to help him absorb it. Every time he absorbed a strand of the martial spirit, it was a cruel and bitter battle. Guard the base under orders. Voila, voila. Bing's heart was extremely excited. The higher-ups want us to negotiate. Hey, how do we negotiate? Ajigu waved his hand. They have already hung our people up. Hey. It's Master Gray, right? Master Gray has lost all his face this time. When the time comes, will he vent his anger on us? The two of them looked at the big door of the bronze base. A low voice, without anger, seemed to have some sort of strange power, causing people's hearts to tremble. It was rumored that a saint had died in his hands, but no one knew if it was true or not. Everyone's mind simultaneously surfaced the same word. Chapter 453. This blade-wielding martial artist is a freak. At that moment, Ajiji's aura continued to rise. Xueli's defeat caused him to squint his eyes, but at that moment he was like an arrow on a bowstring. He had no choice but to release it. Abandoning the distracting thoughts in his mind, he bellowed. The true power in his body surged to the maximum. His eyes red like a bloodthirsty beast, he rushed towards Tang Yi. Xueli's face was as white as paper, her heart overwhelmed with shock. She was extremely proud of her own light body technique, but she did not have the confidence to successfully escape from the terrifying blade aura. Unknowingly, I have arrived here. Unknowingly, I am so petty. I already have my own beliefs. I already have my own pride. The true power in his body surged, his entire body lighting up with a misty light aura. The broadsword on the ground had the densest light aura. His upper body did not move an inch, his steps were heavy and powerful, full of impact. With every step he took, his aura would rise. The rumors of killing a saint, the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique, the awakening of Big Dipper, the submission of Draco Constellation. Throwing down that sentence, Tang Yi turned and returned to the door as though nothing had happened. He closed his eyes and stood there with his blade. When he was alive, he was petty and ordinary. He did not leave behind any traces. No matter how mediocre he was, he did not find anything that belonged to him. Unknowingly, I could no longer tolerate cowardice and cowardice. In a moment of desperation, she could not care about anything else, her hair fluttering without any wind, suddenly curling up strangely like a steel wire, blocking in front of her. The mechanical engineers all scattered under Big Sister's tyrannical power. There was never anyone who could be arrogant. Ever since Hua Qinyun knew that Three Spirit City and Tang Tian's relationship was not ordinary, he had carefully gathered information on both sides. When he saw Tang Yi crossing the training grounds, he recognized him. A series of questions caused Hua Qinyun's mind to be in a mess. It could be seen that the mechanical martial artists were very familiar with Tang Yi. This familiarity was definitely not something that they had only met once or twice. In front of Scorpio Constellation they were all dim. But Hua Qinyun, who had just witnessed the battle, knew that the information regarding Tang Yi's strength was a joke. Logically speaking, with so many pieces of information, they would definitely not make the same mistake. Tang Yi didn't have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. He tied Xueli up tightly and gagged her. The unconscious Ajij was also tied up. Hang them together. Every step he took caused the ground to shake, and every step he took caused true power to burst forth. His imposing manner was terrifying, and with an indomitable determination he brazenly rushed forward. "I'm already so strong." However, her expression froze in an instant. "This base, what the hell is this place?" Tang Yi calmly raised his saber to block. "Godlike young man. How many secrets are you hiding?" She gritted her teeth as she said this. She didn't know why, but she felt relieved in her heart, and her nervousness decreased by a lot. Compared to facing this monster in front of him, accepting the clan's punishment didn't seem that scary. But following that, Hua Qinyun was shocked by Tang Yi's monstrous strength. Furthermore, this was greatly different from the information she had received. Although Tang Yi was different from the intelligence reports, his face and the Zanmadeo in his hand were quite recognizable. "I surrender." Shirley and Azig, who were outside the door, were stunned. She actually sped up again. Shirley's eyes flashed with a hint of pride. Her lightness skill was outstanding, and she could accelerate and turn at will in the air. Coupled with her polar-breaking needle, which was hard to defend against, she rarely had a match. Hua Qinyun was stunned. He was shocked by his own bold idea. "I don't know when, but I have such a strong desire. My God." Close the door. Ding. Unknowingly, it had become like this. The citizens of Three Spirit City subconsciously turned their heads. They saw an unforgettable scene. A terrifying blade aura was like a flood, sweeping through the entire Three Spirit City. Three Spirit City, which was filled with houses, was like a paper model that was split into two by the blade aura. The sword was held horizontally in front of him, like a spear, an astonishing sword aura blossoming from the sword blade. But Tang Tian's Lupus army was the most important army under Tang Tian's command, and Tang Yi had always been the target of careful research. Tang Yi's strength had long surfaced. Although his poker face was wretched, but in crucial moments he was still reliable. But he was definitely not a saint. Tang Tian's scheming, was it really that deep? The battle just now was clearly seen in every training grounds. All of the numbered training grounds were dead silent. All of the mechanical spirit weapons were like metal statues, not moving at all. A light aura lit up in Tang Yi's eyes. The intense battle in front of him was extremely tense. Ajiji's sword aura caused the air to distort, but his heart was as calm as water. "Sai Lei, you are the strongest mechanical master. There is no one else. Is it you? Must be you. To make me, who was so ordinary, become like this." The relationship between Three Spirit City and Tang Tian was truly not ordinary. Polar-breaking needle, that was one of her killing techniques. This sharp true power was extremely condensed and was 100 times harder than metal. It was indestructible. It was usually nourished in her meridians, immersing and tempering them day after day. Tang Yi, who had dragged the two of them in, spoke without turning his head. Hua Qinyun had also witnessed Tang Yi's blade and was dumbstruck. It was not that he had never seen such a powerful blade before. For those blade saints, if they were to release their strength, it would not be difficult for them to release such a destructive blade aura. She released her fist, her expression returning back to normal as though nothing had happened. She stared at the surrounding mechanical masters who were watching the show. What are you looking at? You all still have the mood to watch the show? All of you pay attention. Whoever dares to drag me down, this great ant will let them know why the flowers are so red. I want them to come true. The sword blade rubbed against the ground, creating bright sparks. Xueli looked at the terrifying and seemingly endless ravine in front of her in fear, her body trembling uncontrollably. A low and stern voice resonated in the entire three-spirit city. Tang Yi, who was dragging the captive, the sound of his feathered armor in the dead silence, was extremely clear. Xueli's mind trembled like a cat with its fur standing on end. She screamed, leaping up, like a bolt of lightning. She pounced towards Tang Yi. Ajiji's heart trembled. With just one look, the killing intent was so dense he had never seen it before. With the gigantic broadsword on his back, Ajiji's distracting thoughts disappeared. His expression was calm. Dragging the sword on the ground, he took big steps forward. The light aura in Tang Yi's eyes exploded. The zanbato in his hand suddenly slashed downwards. Is it you guys? Must be you guys. That made me gather my courage, that made me cut through the thorns and sang loudly, that made my heart restless, that made me unwilling to die. All those beliefs, all those ambitions, all those longings were no longer unreachable, no longer buried deep in my heart. Sai Lei, who was meticulous, naturally noticed Tang Yi's change, and roughly guessed that it was the hard work of Tang Yi and the rest, causing her fists to clench tightly. Did Tang Yi intentionally hide his strength? Hua Qinyun gradually calmed down from the shock. He suddenly thought of another problem. The dagger struck the blade of the zanbato, and an extremely sharp true power like a steel needle pierced into the zanbato. Since when did Master Tang Yi become so ferocious? Is he still human? No, Master is not a human. Saint rank? No, he did not have the aura of a saint rank, but if he was not a saint rank, how could he unleash such a shocking blade? Voila, did I see wrongly just now? I must have seen wrongly. Actually, I must have been blind. This move was soundless and extremely vicious. Countless enemies had died to this move of hers, and there was even a gold-ranked martial artist who died from the broken star needle. Could it be Tang Tian was the real master of Three Spirit City? The broken star needle was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no response. The training ground behind him was in an uproar. Sai Lei, who had witnessed the battle from afar, heaved a sigh of relief. She had been worried about the Yifan family's revenge for the past few days. She knew how strong the Yifan family was, but Tang Yi's monstrous performance made her feel more at ease. Tang Yi flipped his wrist, and an unstoppable force suddenly exploded out, causing Xueli to choke, as though she was an agile swallow that had crashed into a gigantic wave that could shatter steel. She threw the dagger in her hand. The mechanical engineers immediately controlled the door mechanism with pale white faces, but their hands were trembling. The broadsword in Ajiji's hand had completely disappeared, leaving behind only the sword hilt. He was lying in the deep ditch, his entire body covered in blood, unconscious. Monster. She groaned. She felt as though she had been struck by a gigantic beast. She flew back at an even faster speed than before, the blood in her body churning, her entire body about to fall apart. Kill. Heaven's Road's gaze was attracted to Scorpio constellation's sudden appearance of a saint treasure, and the topic of Ursa Major constellation quickly cooled down. A third-grade constellation compared to a first-grade constellation was simply negligible. Even the glorious history that Ursa Major constellation was proud of, in front of Scorpio constellation, was so poor that it was not even worth mentioning. Flipping his wrist and raising his blade, Tang Yi's zanbato was already raised. Could it be that Tang Tian was underestimated again? His gaze pierced through the lingering killing intent, straight into the hearts of the two people. An indescribable sense of danger enveloped the two of them. Tang Yi looked at the two people hanging not far away. He did not know why the two of them were hanging, but he did not care and casually threw the two people who were tied up to the ground. In the air, a cold light flashed past Xueli's eyes. Her figure suddenly became blurry and disappeared in the air. Her teeth were chattering, her calves and stomach were trembling, and what made her feel even more despair was that she was being locked down by the enemy's chi. She subconsciously turned to escape, but suddenly saw that unknowingly, the armored monster had once again raised his blade and was aimed at her. The heavy bronze door slowly opened. A martial artist clad in armor and wielding a blade stood behind the door. Everyone is working hard for you, fighting for you, Silei, you have to do better. But why is it exposed now? What are their intentions? Everything in front of the torrent of blade auras disappeared, other than Ajigu, a straight and wide ditch extended all the way to the end of Three Spirit City. Silei returned to her own experiment table, the fighting intent in her heart surging, shouting silently in her heart. Chapter 454. Very quickly, a new batch of martial artists entered and sat down. Hua Chenyun looked at the time and was somewhat helpless. The clan elders clearly said that they would be arriving at this time. All the important people like to be late. The breathing sounds of the 500,000 people converged into one, rumbling like thunder. Everyone was drenched in sweat. This brand new training method required everyone to maintain a high degree of concentration in a short period of time. Senior Zhao's words, "Make us juniors blush with shame, please come in, come in." Bing immediately said. As expected of the Hunter Principal of Orion Constellation's #1 Academy, the standard of grooming martial artists was top-notch. He was slightly bored and also felt that the silence was too awkward, so he took the initiative to speak and pretended to be chatting. "General Tang Yi, do you need to personally stand guard here?" Just at that moment, a group of people entered his vision. The group of people were walking towards him. As the host and the guests sat down, everyone exchanged some pleasantries and Elder Xiao went straight to the point. "This time I am here to seek help from your side." They were ignored. The group of people chatted and laughed as they walked into the base. The bustling training grounds of the base immediately attracted everyone's attention. Bing saw that everyone was interested and knew that it was a big deal, so he also did his best to explain. Not far from Jing Hao, Xiu's face was pale white, his entire body perspiring. His role was to support Jing Hao, and was equivalent to an assistant. Although the majority of the pressure was on Jing Hao, but 520,000 people, even 10% of the pressure to him, was an extremely severe test. He was truly an Iron Man. The stern elder squeezed out a smile. Such a fierce general, truly dauntless and unparalleled. No wonder the godlike young man was invincible and seized Ursa Major constellation. At the start, the Andromeda martial artists and Sky Dragon martial artists were grumbling, which was a clear contrast to the Lupus martial artists. Adrian immediately moved the grumbling martial artists to the back, and immediately the martial artists of the two constellations shut their mouths. And after that, the Lupus martial artists displayed perseverance and astonishing obedience, gave the martial artists of the two constellations an immense pressure. Adding that the families behind the martial artists gave severe warnings to those who performed badly, the entire Bear Eggs training atmosphere was good, something Adrian had never seen before. From the corner of his eyes, Tang Yi had already raised his terrifying Zanbato. Disdain appeared on the faces of Elder Zhao's entourage. Although this kind of stupid thing happened occasionally in big families, being caught and hung up was a big loss of face. The torrent of blade auras suddenly burst out. The dazzling blade auras instantly covered his entire vision. Hua Chenyun's mind was blank. He hugged his head with his hands. He could not believe his eyes. The burly man who continuously blocked Tang Yi's attack moved to the side, making way for the elder behind him. He glanced at Tang Yi with a serious expression, his heart secretly shivering. Tang Yi's blade stopped in midair. What a powerful saber aura! Synchronization rate 72%. Adrian's voice was very calm. "My training efficiency has increased by about 8%. Very good." When the blade aura dissipated, Hua Chenyun suddenly quivered. He could no longer care about the clan elders and immediately rushed to Tang Yi and roared, "Guest! We are guest!" Jing Hao looked as if he had just been fished out of the water. He couldn't hide the fatigue on his face, but his eyes were abnormally bright like stars. The faces of the four people on the pole were flushed with shame. "Oh no. Tang Yi, don't be rude." Bing's voice came out from behind. Hua Chenyun suddenly realized something was wrong. The hand that was originally holding onto the blade was already holding onto the hilt. In a moment, Tang Yi turned from a silent statue to a wild beast ready to pounce. Everyone's footsteps became sluggish and subconsciously stopped. They raised their heads to look at the four people on the pole. At that moment there was an awkward silence. Hua Qinyun was quiet for a while and could not help but speak up again. General Tang Yi's day was truly shocking. I never thought that not only was General Tang an outstanding military general, his blade techniques were also so powerful. Xiao glanced at Jing Hao, his heart filled with admiration. The pressure that Jing Hao had to endure was much more than him. Every time he finished training, Jing Hao would be pulled out of the water. But from the start to the end his expression did not change. Jing Hao had already recovered and was once again full of energy. Adrian looked at Xiao and Xiao's face became solemn. Adrian had also seen Xiao's improvement. Hua Qinyun held his breath as he turned his stiff neck. When he saw the deep ravine that extended all the way to the feet of a big-sized man, his entire being relaxed. In that moment, it was as though he had gone from hell to heaven. Oh, these are the 4 pig heads of the Yifan family. This thought flashed through Adrian's mind and he immediately burst into laughter. Tang Tian had already endured for 16 days. Normally, the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique could last for 30 days and above, and rarely exceeded 50 days. Tang Tian could possibly last even shorter, because the whirlpool sword spirit around him was unprecedentedly thick. In other words, the intensity of his tempering was unprecedented, and he could possibly complete the tempering of his martial spirit earlier. Even the participating martial artists could only be chanced upon and not sought after. Jing Hao's performance greatly encouraged Xiao, who clenched his teeth and persevered. Master Bing is too humble. The cold-faced elder said, 3 spirit cities' mechanical techniques are unparalleled in Heaven's Road. This time, we are here with the attitude of learning. I hope that Master Bing, Grandmaster Sai Lei will not be stingy with your guidance. Tang Yi straightforwardly kept his blade and moved to the side. The effect of training had increased by 8%. Jing Hao secretly nodded his head. Such an increase was extremely powerful. But it was a pity, such an increase did not have the possibility of a general increase. Without Tang Tian's whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique, it was impossible to form such a dense star power region. And without Jing Hao holding down the fort, it was also impossible to achieve. Is it the Yifan family of the Taurus constellation? Elder Shao asked thoughtfully. Bear egg. Ah, that's right. Bing scratched his chin, admiring for a moment. He laughed. I heard that the Yifan family is extremely wealthy. I wonder how many star coins these 4 people can be exchanged for. This is a reaction training. The goal is to raise the familiarity of the martial artists towards the mechanical spirit weapons. Mechanical spirit weapons are completely different from the previous mechanical weapons. A mechanical spirit weapon can be understood as a brand new body. It has its own martial spirit, and the most important thing for a mechanical martial artist is to increase the ability to communicate with the martial spirit, and the martial spirit of the mechanical spirit weapon also needs to grow. Hua Qinyun guarded the door with Tang Yi leaning on his blade not far away. Tang Yi acted as though he did not see him, not saying a word, and remained silent. But Hua Qinyun could feel a formless pressure, the killing intent lingering around Tang Yi, made him suspect that Tang Yi would explode with his blade and chop him up. After the tour ended, Bing brought everyone to the Great Hall for tea and rest. Bing laughed modestly. Ursa Major Constellation is such a rural place in front of everyone, it is truly a joke. Libra Constellation, the heart of all craftsmen, is the pilgrimage ground for all craftsmen in Heaven's Road. If the synchronization rate can reach 90% and above, the training efficiency should increase by around 15%. Adrian's calm tone was filled with anticipation. To increase the training efficiency, it was a difficult problem in the world. And to take out 15%, it was definitely a dazzling result, and most probably only organizations like the 12 Ecliptic Palaces and the Honorable Martial Alliance Onyx Soul had higher-level methods. Clan Elder Shao looked at Bing and smiled. For Bing to be able to say out his identity, it meant that he was already prepared, but that was exactly what he wanted. Tang Yi looked like he was asleep. I am truly curious, what will Tang Tian's martial spirit be like after it is completely tempered? Hua Qinyun was startled but immediately reacted. His face changed and he exclaimed out loud, wait. Clan Elder Shao laughed. Although the Yifan family was strong, but it was not to the point where he feared them. The group continued to move forward and continued to tour the base. Hua Qinyun quietly looked at Tang Yi. "All right, I am truly bored to death." Adrian calmed himself down and threw all the distracting thoughts to the back of his head and bellowed, "Begin." He continued to be ignored. Tang Yi acted as though he did not hear anything and did not even bat an eyelid. Every time was torture, but Xiao clenched his teeth and endured. He knew it was a test of willpower and temperament, and if he could endure it, his strength would definitely soar. Teacher had given him such an important position. It meant that he trusted him and also had the intention to groom him. Bing brought a group of people and toured the entire base once, spending a full 2 hours before it ended. In the entire process, Clan Elder Zhao's eyes were filled with splendor. Bang! The dazzling blade aura once again completely occupied his vision. Hua Qinyun, who had just relaxed, suddenly froze. His hands that were hugging his head froze, his expression froze, and his thoughts froze. This type of training is to raise the mechanical martial artist's sprinting ability. The mechanical spirit weapon's flight relies on the power of the mechanism itself, and not light body techniques. On how to use the power of the mechanism requires systematic training. Just a step away from the saint level, such a strong spirit general, is truly inconceivable. Although his method was good, but the intensity was too high. Every training required him to give it his all, and it was in such an extreme training environment. None of the lupus martial artists actually complained and just quietly trained. Recently there have been many troubles and my subordinates are overly anxious. I am truly sorry for the misunderstanding just now. I am Bing. Welcome everyone. Bing bowed and apologized. Tang Tian's whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique needs to be sustained for a period of time. Huh? Hua Qinyun did not know when he regained his senses, but when he regained his senses, the blade aura had already dissipated and a deep and straight ravine extended from Tang Yi's feet too. Regardless of whether it was Tang Tian or Jing Hao or the other martial artists, they were all praiseworthy. All of them gathered together, only then could there be such a situation. The martial artists on the ropes all stood up and left in an orderly manner. Jing Hao closed his eyes to rest, recovering his physical strength and grasping for the next round of training. The truth proved that Adrian's method was extremely effective. He could feel his own true power and control had an obvious increase. Taking advantage of this time, Hua Qinyun quickly explained the grievances between the Yifan family and Sai Lei. Is there finally a reaction? Hua Qinyun heaved a sigh of relief. He raised his head and looked at Tang Yi. Suddenly Tang Yi opened his eyes. Chapter 455. Remember, I do not only have you as my only son. No choice, the basic price is not cheap. We spent a lot of effort in the past. Of course, the most important thing is, in the entire Heaven's Road there are no other branches. 3 Spirit City has become the crux of the entire strategy. Look at my sincerity. I am already so old, my mouth is already dry. Just give me a number. Dao Dun's face turned gloomy. He said, "You are my son, but no one can stand above the Yifan family. You were bewitched by that woman in the past. I will not pursue your wrongdoings. But you have to go to Sai Lei and beg for forgiveness. There is no room for discussion. If you can't do it, I will chase you out of the family." In this period of time, the higher-ups of the Grandmaster Association had been thinking and worrying about how to protect themselves. The inheritance of Libra constellation was proficient in fine control, which led to their usage and research of martial techniques, leaning towards living. And in terms of fighting martial techniques, there was nothing to write home about. The middle-aged man mumbled, "It's just Ursa Major constellation." Mechanical armies were undoubtedly the most suitable fighting units for Libra constellation, because their technical requirements were the highest. Libra constellation had a mechanical grandmaster, and more importantly, Libra constellation's various industries and techniques were extremely robust. Once they completed a breakthrough in their basic mechanical spirit weapons, with their technical reserves, they could quickly break through. Both parties exchanged blows and very quickly came to an agreement. A resounding slap to the face. His mind suddenly surfaced the lonely little girl when she left the Yifan family, that pair of stubborn eyes. It was done by Madame Chu Shi. The old man said, Sai Lei's mother's corpse had a slow-acting poison. It was the green vine that the Chu family released in the past 2 years. From the looks of it, the green vine should have just been completed. In the past, Mo Wei Tian, that old profiteer, sold a broken one for 20 million, and Bing felt that selling it for 80 million was a good thing. Family Patriarch Dao Dun Fan's face was flushed red. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. You want the mechanical spirit weapon technology? If it's too powerful we can't sell it to you, but the basics are not a problem. From Lupus constellation to Andromeda constellation, from Andromeda constellation to Ursa Major constellation, everyone knew he was a thorn. You're so good at leading soldiers and doing business. You have a bright future. Since you've said so, I can only accept it. I heard that your army has already been disbanded. Why don't you pack up all the mechanical spirit weapons and sell them to me? Although I, the great Libra, am not as rich as the Aquarius gold, but I am definitely more than that. He had followed the old master for dozens of years, so he understood this seemingly random sentence. If Sai Lei forgave her father, this matter would naturally be sealed. If Sai Lei did not, then young master He Shi and Madame Chu Shi basic? That's fine too. My great Libra doesn't have a lot of things, but it does have a lot of masters. If I can get a good grasp of the basics, I'll become more profound in the blink of an eye. At that time it's hard to say who's more profound. But if not, to wait for them to introduce their own mechanical weapons and then start training, it would be too late. But Libra constellation was the most open-minded constellation in the 12 ecliptic palaces. Regardless of what theories were there, they would not be viewed as heresy, and many of Onyx Soul's grandmasters liked to live in seclusion in Libra constellation. There were many grandmasters in the Grandmaster Association, although their attainments in the mechanical domain were limited, but they had a deep understanding of technology and the changes in the world. He better think clearly. Dao Dun's tone was cold. I will not let him drag everyone down with him. Have you investigated the matter that year? You must have evidence. When the middle-aged man left dejectedly, an old man appeared like a ghost. He sighed. Old master, young master He is just muddled for a moment. He will think clearly. For some reason his heart felt a chill. Libra constellation, one of the 12 ecliptic palaces. But it was not as declining as Scorpio constellation, nor as prosperous as Leo constellation. It had always been a middle constellation in the 12 ecliptic palaces, neither high nor low. It was because of this good atmosphere that Libra constellation became the constellation with the most craftsmen, and had all sorts of martial artists there. There were many associations in Libra constellation, the Craftsman Association, the Martial Artist Association, etc. But the most powerful one was none other than the Grandmaster Association. Almost 80% of the core associations in Libra constellation were all under the Grandmaster Association. Fan's family. Just Ursa Major constellation? Dao Dun was so angry that he laughed. The Libra constellation's Grandmaster Association is so stupid to spend around 500 billion to buy those trash? Let me tell you, they are expressing their goodwill to Tang Tian. The Ursa Major constellation that you look down on, they are thinking of ways to befriend you. Let me tell you now this matter. If you do not settle it, I will raise a suggestion to the clan elder to hold you accountable. Mo Lung lived in seclusion, concentrating on tinkering with his own mechanical weapons. Sky Marshal Wolf Academy had a total of 5,600 sets of mechanical spirit weapons. Each set was sold to the Grandmaster Association for 80 million star coins, for a total of 448 billion. How stupid is the Fan family? Just at this time the mechanical army appeared in their vision, immediately attracting their attention. The fundamental mechanical spirit weapon technology was sold to the Grandmaster Association for 20 billion star coins. Both parties were satisfied. Jealousy is truly a sin. Dao Dun seemed to be sighing. After a moment he suddenly sneered. Only forgiveness can save. The little girl did not cry. Bing was naturally satisfied, especially the 5,600 sets of used mechanical spirit weapons, to be able to be sold for 448 billion. His heart was blooming with joy. Sai Lei's new model had already started to take shape, and the change of equipment was already on the agenda. He had originally planned to use these old mechanical spirit weapons for the reserve force training, but he did not expect to directly sell them. The Grandmaster Association's entry requirements were extremely strict, and only the top talents of each profession had the chance to enter. But the Grandmasters were usually immersed in their own research, and were not interested in other matters, so the association arranged for many elders. These elders were in charge of the daily work, and had profound attainments in techniques, so they held great authority in the association. Many of the elders were sharp enough to realize that the combination of the martial spirit and mechanical weapons, had given the ancient and declining techniques a new pair of wings, and its future potential was huge. And the knowledgeable elders were filled with worry for the chaotic world. Could Libra Constellation still maintain its neutrality in the chaotic world? Even if they joined a faction, how could they protect their own benefits? Libra Constellation, that only had techniques in front of blades and spears, was just a plump milk cow. Although there were no rivers of blood, no massacres, but they were definitely not benevolent Mr. Goodfellas. Lawless and out of control, vengeful, with just a word of disagreement they would fight. If they wanted to stretch their hands into his bowl, he would definitely raise his blade and not let them off. That won't do, we still have to train, we still have to prepare for war, we still have to. In a short few hours, a huge contract with a total value of 468 billion star coins was formed. The Grandmaster Association hoped to directly bring 3 Spirits City into the association. But as the information continued to be perfected and the Tang Tian backing 3 Spirits City surfaced, the higher-ups very rationally threw that idea away. The 12 Ecliptic Palace's armies were indeed stronger, their martial artists were stronger, but all of this strength was only on paper. How many years had it been since their military generals had fought a battle? The only thing that could be considered as a real battle was suppressing bandits. Their strength on paper was indeed not strong, but they were like a hurricane, defeating one army after another. The news of Libra Constellation's Grandmaster Association cooperating with 3 Spirits City quickly spread, and Guan went to Libra Constellation to conduct his own research there. But although Guan was a mechanical Grandmaster, but in the Grandmaster Association his position was not high, and that was because of the decline of mechanical techniques. Although Ursa Major Constellation was only a 3rd-grade constellation, but Tang Tian was not someone to be trifled with. In the past, to be able to obtain victory after victory in the battlefield, there was only this young lad Tang who acted dumb on the surface, but was actually a scheming person. The middle-aged man covered his face, dumbstruck. Young lad Tang's reputation was completely built from fighting and killing. Both sides immediately started to negotiate amicably. The middle-aged man was stunned, he did not dare believe his own ears and only reacted after a while and screamed, "You're crazy. I am your son. You." And Elder Shao was extremely satisfied, although 468 billion seemed to be a huge loss for them, but the war was nearing and to them the most important thing was not star coins but time. All these second-hand mechanical spirit weapons, not only could they be used as research targets, they could also allow them to immediately organize mechanical martial artists to start training. In front of him, a middle-aged man drooped his head, looking dispirited. Elder Shao was one of them, and the Grandmasters he was in charge of included the mechanical Grandmaster Guan. Before Sai Lei obtained the title of Grandmaster, there were 2 publicly acknowledged Grandmasters in the mechanical world, and they were the Mo families Mo Lung and Guan. The old man's heart turned cold. Do you know who the master of 3 Spirits City is? It's that lunatic Tang Tian, the lunatic who used the Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique on me. That lunatic who would go up and bite you for no reason and you still dare to provoke him? He does not even give face to Onyx Soul in the Honorable Martial Alliance. Who do you think you are? Dao Dun scolded. Dao Dun's words were cold without any warmth, causing the middle-aged man to feel as though he had fallen into an ice cellar. Libra Constellation, who had straightened his attitude, became extremely courteous. Cooperation, everyone is cooperating. You name a price, I'll buy it. If I can buy it with money, why fight and kill? Especially the meeting between Sai Lei Mo Lung and Guan, the 3 mechanical Grandmaster, made all the mechanical enthusiasts extremely excited. It was the first meeting between the 3 mechanical Grandmaster, and in the eyes of the mechanical enthusiasts, it was the symbol of the revival of mechanical techniques. The middle-aged man was completely dumbstruck. Sai Lei's creation of the mechanical spirit weapons did not cause any waves in Libra Constellation, until the Battle of Ursa Major Constellation, where the mechanical army performed outstandingly, causing the mechanical techniques to become extremely popular, and Guan Mo's position quickly rose. Are you a pig? How can you be so stupid? Now the entire Heavens Road is laughing at us, even the stingiest and stingiest old man Gu is fucking laughing at us. Why didn't you investigate first? Why didn't you ask the clan elder for instructions for such a huge matter? The reason why he dared to pull all the armies back for special training, and dared to sell all 5,600 mechanical spirit weapons, was naturally because he had something to rely on. Others only thought that he was blinded by greed, but they didn't know that for someone like him who had an instinctive desire for war, how could he not have a trump card? After a while, a Lupus tribe elder stammered, "Will this work?" As for Tang Tian and the others, the longer they could hold on, the more advantages they would have. "Of course, you're courting death if you rob them in front of them. What shall we do?" No matter how strong they were still humans. They would get tired too. That would be our chance. If there's a chance, we'll stab them twice. If there's no chance, we'll just howl at the side. If they chase after us, we'll run. It's simple. Bing said calmly. The Blue Whale army could not do anything to Tang Yi's Lupus army. The army came and went like the wind, and the Blue Whale army did not have mounts and could not catch up. What was worse was that the Lupus army could conceal themselves and their attacks were sharp and incisive. If they sent too few people, they would be swallowed by the enemy. Bing's trump card was the 1,000,000 Lupus martial artists. The 3 saints of Cetus constellation suddenly disappeared. Humans have to think of a way. There's a tactic in the art of war called fortify the walls and clear the fields. We are going to bandit poison field. Bing's poker face smiled, his finger drawing a big circle on the star map. "Oh, bandit poison field is too small, it's boring. If we want to play, we'll play it big." Bing scoffed. "Of course we can't go head to head with the 3 fish army, they are still very powerful. As for the plateau army of Andromeda constellation, what was the use of a 4th grade army?" Bing said boldly, "Positional warfare? Such a tactic that doesn't require any technique, why would we do it? We'll do what we do, Rob. Go and greet them properly." Only he could bring the Sky Martial Wolf Academy's mechanical spirit weapons to 3 Spirit City. 5,600 mechanical spirit weapons. Even if he used the Silver Aquarius cabinet, Bing would still be exhausted. The opponent came prepared. Bing acted as though he did not hear anything, coughed lightly and said, "As for us, the most important thing is to stall for time. Since we are stalling for time, then that's easy. Other than being cannon fodder in the battlefield, what other abilities do we have? Bandits, oh my, 1,000,000 bandits, and it's 1,000,000 Lupus bandits that have reached the 6th level and awakened their blood meridians." North Peace City. With the addition of the MO family, Sai Lei's new model had improved by leaps and bounds. Bing's face was all smiles. So Tang Yi was indifferent towards Cetus constellation occupying North Peace City. The one occupying North Peace City was the Cetus constellation's Blue Whale army. Ursa Major constellation had 3 armies, White Whale, Black Whale and Blue Whale army. The Blue Whale army was the weakest out of the 3 armies, but even this army had more people than the Lupus army. The elders of the Lupus army looked at each other. All of them were frightened by Bing's suggestion. His heart was filled with worry. The Plateau army's soldiers had an average standard of the 7th level, but for an army like Cetus constellation, their soldiers had an average standard of the 8th level. That was a huge gap. Although true power could not directly determine strength, but the difference between the 2 parties could be seen. Everyone then understood Bing's idea and all of their eyes lit up. Although it was a wretched idea, but to stall for time it was not bad. Tang Yi had been promoted to a major, and his command had suddenly increased to 2,500 men. And 3 Spirit City had Magic Flute holding the fort, so Bing brought Tang Yi back to Ursa Major constellation, and prepared to expand the Lupus army. Just like what he thought, the White Whale army and Black Whale army were irresistible and attacked the city. North Peace City was once one of the important cities of Ursa Major constellation. The concentration of star power there was extremely good, and thus produced martial artists, and a few King Bear martial artists came from North Peace City. But Yen Yong Lai's final mobilization caused all the martial artists in the city to enter Orion constellation. The current North Peace City was desolate, and was no longer as flourishing as before. Imminent danger? Bing sneered. He stood up. Under the stimulation of money, Bing erupted with limitless potential, and finally completed the delivery of all the mechanical spirit weapons. Tang Yi was chased back to Ursa Major constellation to prepare for the expansion of the Lupus army. With the money, Tang Cho immediately started his strategy for Fornax constellation, and started to continuously choose outstanding mechanical martial artists to join his army. Yen Yong Lai's imprint on Ursa Major constellation could not be erased in a short period of time. Long Shou Jing's face revealed a look of shame. He knew that in a battle, 3 saints could form a destructive force. The sudden disappearance of the 3 saints was like a dagger hidden in the darkness that could deliver a fatal blow at any time. Bear Egg's special training was interrupted, and Bing listened to Adrian's summary report. Everyone's faces turned white and they trembled in fear. Cetus Constellation had launched an attack on Ursa Major Constellation. Ling Su looked at Bing and corrected, "Whales are not fishes." Even the opponent, Bing, secretly praised Cetus Constellation's choice of time. Tang Tian's Whirlpool Sword spirit tempering technique had not ended, and regarding the special training at Bear Egg, the opponent must have already found out about it, and it was undoubtedly the best opportunity. The mechanical army's equipment were all sold to Libra Constellation, and the students of the Sky Wolf Martial Academy were basically unable to fight. Mo Wei Tian was clear. Compared to working together, the Grandmaster Association's resources were obviously richer, and their strength was many times stronger. If it was like before, the Mo family's usefulness to Three Spirit City would decrease, and the Mo family would be in a disadvantageous position. It was not only Tang Tian who did not care, even Crane and the rest did not care, because they all knew that Tang Tian had no interest in ruling over a constellation. What the fool wanted to do the most was to kill his way to Southern Cross Constellation in one breath. Because Tang Yi had already led the Lupus army out. For a unique military general like Tang Yi who had specialized tactics, and the soldiers under him had activated the ancient wolf race's blood meridians, only then could he contend against the middle-level armies. From here to here is the only way to Bear Egg. All of the Lupus martial artists split up and scatter into this region. My request is simple, that is to turn this place into a bandit swamp. The Lupus army appeared and disappeared around them, causing the Blue Whale army to be extremely tense, and their speed of advancement was as slow as a tortoise. "Where is Tang Yi?" Bing asked. Furthermore, there was Mo Lung, the mechanical grandmaster engineer. From then on, Three Spirit City had two mechanical grandmaster engineers overseeing it, and without question Three Spirit City was the true #1 mechanical city. Who knew that it would be a lucky hit? Bing completely ignored everyone's murderous gazes and said, "So I have prepared many small toys for everyone. They are all good stuff from the Blood Meridian's laboratory. Whatever poison, knockout drugs, self-destructing beasts, everyone bring more. Relax, the usage is simple. Whatever water source, bury it in the ground, throw the poison into the clouds. Don't take it to heart. If a saint is so easily monitored, he would not be a saint." Bing consoled Long Shoujing. His face did not show any signs of panic. Bing did not comment and turned to ask Ta Dun, "What about the Plateau Army?" The Mo family's arrival had increased the strength of Three Spirit City. The Mo family was one of the few mechanical aristocratic families. The number of mechanical engineers and their standard were all very good. Bing was as busy as a bee. Luckily for the general of the Blue Whale army, he was clear. As long as he could delay the Lupus army, he had already completed his mission. The entire Ursa Major Constellation was left with only one army with fighting strength. Three Spirit City was also in a mess. The Mo family had moved into Three Spirit City, and the matters involved were complicated, causing Pai Pa and the rest to be extremely tired. Tang Yi tried to attack a few times, but the opponent's military leader was extremely cautious, and did not reveal any flaws. The opponent's formation was too thick and Tang Yi did not dare to rush in too deep. If they waited for Tang Tian to succeed in tempering his spirit, and the special training ended, then the close to 500 billion star coins would be digested, and the new model of mechanical spirit weapons would be equipped, and that would be Cetus Constellation's nightmare. At this time, joining Three Spirit City was a kind of declaration. Chapter 457. Gong Qing gently took a sip of red wine. "Over at Three Spirit City, does Elder Zhang have any thoughts? If we don't take action now, wouldn't it benefit others? Although my superior has already degenerated, my pursuit of the path of a famous general will not change no matter what." Teng Chou coldly threw down these words and swaggered off. "How many days has it been?" Fu Yan felt that the only thing he could think of was to ask for help from the Emperor, ask for help from the Honorable Martial Alliance. He stared blankly into the distance and suddenly felt that from here to Bear Egg, it was so far away. "Little Cho Cho, don't be like that." Bing laughed and flicked his cigarette. "Do you know what I like the most about this era? It's that everyone doesn't know that I am a famous general. Haha, I can finally do whatever I want." Bing laughed out loud, one hand on Tang Chou's shoulder, the other holding the cigarette and waving it in the air. Don't be so inflexible as a person. The most important thing is to be flexible. Being flexible is the true way to win. They will have a way, right? Elder Zhang smiled. Tang Tian, although he is arrogant, but he does have some ability, but as the saying goes, when things reach an extreme, he is currently flushed with success, and is not as cautious as before, and has given us the opportunity to take advantage of him. Gong Qing did not say anything and only smiled as he raised the wine in his hand. We have more and more allies. That shows how popular the Honorable Martial Alliance is. Don't worry, Elder. Once we occupy Ursa Major Constellation, we will continue to support the Honorable Group's battle in Orion Constellation. But the most discussed topic in the banquet was still the war against Ursa Major Constellation. It was the first time in many years that Cetus Constellation initiated a war, and in the first few days, everyone was still apprehensive, but very quickly the development of the war caused everyone's mood to become fervent. Gong Qing was happy in his heart, but his face remained calm. It is still too early to talk about this. That's right. How is the situation at Orion Constellation? Has there been any movements from Leo Constellation recently? In the blink of an eye, close to half of Ursa Major Constellation's planets had been occupied. The success of the war caused everyone in Cetus Constellation to be excited. Half of Ursa Major Constellation is already in His Majesty's hands. As long as we obtain the Desolate Bare Bone, the two constellations will merge, and Cetus Constellation will definitely become an ecliptic palace-grade constellation. Elder Zhang said respectfully. In the blink of an eye, all kinds of poisonous substances piled up like a mountain. The old men and women in Three Spirit City's Blood Meridian's laboratory were all boiling with excitement, as though they were injected with chicken blood. All the Blood Meridian specialists only had one feeling, and that was exhilaration. Bing affectionately stood on the podium of the Blood Meridian's laboratory and gave a passionate speech. How many people were there in a million? Everyone here is an elite, all of them at the 8th level of strength. Not sleeping for a few days is nothing. I will endure it. But after 5 days, Fu Yan finally understood what it meant to be a man made of iron and a woman made of steel. Although the number of casualties was not high, it was a huge blow to their morale. Gong Qing was a little surprised. What is it? All the soldiers heaved a sigh of relief. They could finally have a good sleep. Fu Yan turned around and looked at everyone. Everyone's green faces were filled with exhaustion. Those bastards didn't even let them sleep in the middle of the night. Whenever they set up camp, there would always be a large rain of arrows flying over. These arrows were powerful and ridiculously accurate. After a few nights of annoyance, everyone finally got used to it and slept with their shields on their heads. Alright, let's just pretend it's raining. These descendants of the aristocratic families had eyes and ears everywhere, so they knew all the inside information. The puddle was slightly big. Since 5 days ago they had started to encounter all sorts of harassment, attacks and poisons. At the start Fu Yan planned to wipe out all the bandits. But very quickly he realized that if he sent too few people they would be swallowed by the other party. If he sent more the other party would run away. Fu Yan might as well just send the experts in the army, thinking to start a massacre. At the start, seeing the experts like eagles catching chicks sweeping everything before them, Fu Yan was excited. In the end the expert flew up into the sky and upon entering the clouds he fell down like a sandbag, smashing into pieces. Bing was stunned, then laughed out loud. Ah, little clown is getting more and more interesting. This is a good sign. Relax, we will win very soon. The two of them looked at each other and laughed, then clinked their cups and drank. Every Blood Meridian specialist had a wild beast roaring in their hearts. It's finally our turn. No one felt it more deeply than Fu Yan. His face was so gloomy that it seemed as though 3 kilograms of water could be squeezed out. That year when he rejected Tang Tian from entering Cetus Major Constellation, it was his idea. When Tang Tian seized Ursa Major Constellation his mood was obvious. This time he was the most proactive. Was it easy? He didn't need to turn his head to know that the soldiers behind him weren't any better off than Zhou Xian. Rotten and depraved. Bing opened his eyes wide. He could not believe his ears, but after a while he reacted and roared at Tang Chao's back. Hey, come back. Explain to me what is rotten and depraved. In the end, in the rain of arrows, there were more than 10 poison sacs mixed in, although the martial artists on duty blocked most of them, but 2 of the poison sacs fell into the camp and killed more than 30 people. Tang Chou interrupted Bing's words. Be a man? Master, Please face the fact that you are a spirit general. Living under the shadow of a broken woman who forged iron, how humiliating it was. Other than the blue whale army being held back, their speed was slower. The white whale army and the black whale army were like a hot knife through butter, continuously occupying many planets. Seeing Tang Chao's disappearing back, Bing laughed involuntarily, fiercely inhaling the cigarette in his hand, and muttered to himself, "Little wimp with just a bit of ability, he's so rebellious. Sigh, it's not easy to be a parent. This kind of fellow only crazy Tang can educate him. Sigh, this is a good idea. I am truly too wretched. No, too genius. But with military merits he would have a bright future, and after becoming rich, would he be afraid of not having any beauties?" The key was, under such extreme fatigue, under such a tense situation, he still had to endure the scolding and ridicule of these assholes day and night. A bunch of 6th-level little farts ridicule. 3 Spirits City. Ever since then no one dared to fly in the air anymore. Inside the palace, there were songs and dances. The seats were filled with distinguished guests, and beauties were as common as the clouds. Elder Zhang's expression congealed and sighed, "An inch of mountains and rivers, an inch of blood. This Tang Tian is so lucky." Yen Yonglai had already thrown him to Orion Constellation, and this fellow took it without any effort. We were not so lucky at Orion Constellation, but the situation was good, just that our losses were greater. But we have new reinforcements. Elder Zhang shook his head. "Your Majesty, please forgive me, I cannot say that yet." The other party came and went like the wind, with 300 to 500 people in groups. Fu Yan almost thought that he had entered a bandit's lair. Wrong, this place could already be called a bandit's sacred land. Gong Qing was surprised. He slowly pondered over the words in his heart. After a moment he revealed a smile. "Seems like I was overthinking." Cetus Constellation. This time the experts in the army were not willing to move out. There were already 4 martial artists who lost control of their emotions and injured 6 of their comrades. Every step they took they were extremely careful. Something could appear in the ground at any time. As for what it was, it depended on luck. There were already 20 people in the army who had their legs broken. Some were poisoned, some were cut off by the mechanisms, some were exploded by the self-destructing beasts. "Stop. Set up camp here. Stay further away from the water. Split into 2 groups. One group will rest, the other will stand guard. No matter what happens, you are not to go out to battle." Fu Yan was strong. He knew if the soldiers under him did not rest, there would be a mutiny. The position was not bad. It was at least 10 li away from the forest, and within the surrounding 5 to 6 li, there was nothing to hide. It was not easy to have a chance to show off. How could everyone not put in all their effort? When he saw the figures disappearing into the forest and the strange green color reflected by the puddles in front of him, he was enraged, burning his liver in pain. All the water sources were poisoned. The powerful martial artists could of course use true power to protect their meridians, but the ordinary soldiers would suffer. The army was equipped with blood meridian specialists who were proficient in poisons, but the enemy had too many types of poisons. Even the army's blood meridian specialist was poisoned, and was still groaning in the carriage. Fu Yan was not very sure. The number of bandits, the density was so high, it was enough to make one's hair stand, and the methods of the bandits was even more outrageous. So the crux of this battle will all depend on everyone. As long as everyone can produce sufficient and effective poisons, our initiative on the battlefield can be guaranteed. Tang Chou stood by Bing's side, watching coldly. As a famed general to use such despicable, wretched and sinister tactics, it is truly despicable. Gong Qing laughed, although he was already over 60 years old, but he looked to be around 40 years old and did not look old at all. His actions were refined and he bowed back. "I still have to thank Elder Zhang. Without your information, who would have known that Ursa Major Constellation was bluffing and was actually so weak?" The green puddles in front of them caused everyone to stop in their tracks. At the start, when everyone met with the puddles, they would fly over from above. With everyone's light body techniques, flying over the puddles was a piece of cake. In the end, there was one time when a small group flew above the puddles like dumplings. Plop plop, they fell into the puddles, and after a few minutes a layer of bones floated up. Tang Chou walked forward without turning his head, his voice drifting with the wind. "If Master is unable to win, you can swap subordinates to fight. We will definitely win." This time no one dared to sleep anymore. Tang Chou said coldly, "The so-called famed general, shouldn't they have a prideful heart and devotion to war? Master, please conduct yourself with dignity." The people next door were simply a group of beasts. A pile of scrap metal could be sold for close to 500 billion star coins, and in a moment, they had crushed this side score to almost zero. The young aristocratic disciples in the competition grounds did not place their attention on the beauties, but were fervently discussing if they should bring their family's guards to Ursa Major constellation to earn some military merits. Fu Yan was on the verge of crying. He had never met such a despicable, treacherous, and unscrupulous opponent. "Congratulations, Your Majesty." A white-robed old man smiled and greeted Gong Qing. Elder Zhang said profoundly, "Three Spirits City is a delicious cake. Some people want to eat it, some people want to destroy it." Chapter 458. Bell passed the information of the martial artist to Tang Chou, who politely replied, "Thank you." After his speech, Gong Qing drank some water to moisten his throat. The battle report immediately caused an uproar. No one thought that the Ursa Major constellation would be so shameless and use such despicable methods. Tang Tian's previous battles were all tough battles, causing people to admire his bravery and martial prowess. But this battle immediately changed the direction of the wind. Because of this, Tang Chou submitted a proposal to reorganize the base's defense, which was quickly passed. The current Three Spirit City's importance was obvious, and although there were many martial artists in Three Spirit City, most of them were mechanical martial artists. These years, mechanical martial artists' individual strengths were generally lower, and when they formed an army, their fighting strength would increase. But against experts who came and went like the wind, they were still relatively passive. After signing the martial spirit contract, there was no possibility of betrayal, and everyone's gazes immediately became more relaxed. At first they were shocked and angry. They were shocked because Tang Chou had seen through them so thoroughly. They were angry because their weaknesses were publicly revealed, causing them to feel a sense of danger. Belle looked at Tang Chou strangely. As an intelligence officer, her senses were extremely sharp. She felt that Tang Chou seemed to have an obvious change, although Tang Chou was as polite as before. "This brat seems to have really become stronger." The martial artists did not show any arrogance. Their professionalism was still relatively good. More importantly, before coming, Belle had shown them the video of the battle where they defeated the Flowing Wind group, and told them that the commander of the army in the video was Tang Chou. Tang Chou seemed to know what they were thinking. With one sentence, he immediately made them quiet down. "Your Majesty is truly benevolent." Elder Zhang immediately praised. Everyone agreed that they needed stronger defense, so the job of recruiting people was handed over to Belle. "But if we let this group of great honorable light blood meridian specialists return alive, it will be very embarrassing. Hey, I am not a person to stir up trouble, but if this happened to me, I will definitely not be able to tolerate it. Wang Bo, your rod techniques are extremely sharp, but your problem is, as long as your attacks are continuously blocked more than 6 times, your rhythm will start to become messed up. And when your rod techniques are connected, there will be obvious pauses. This will become your weakness, and your lower body is too low, although it allows you to stabilize your center of gravity, but you will instead restrict your attacking area." Tang Chou's comment completely awed these martial artists. Gong Qing's speech was inspiring, and all the Cetus martial artists' eyes lit up. Lupus bandits? It was said that he was a martial artist from a remote village with a star power concentration of only 1%. Moreover, the reward was 10,000 star coins. Elder Zhang exclaimed in admiration. His Majesty's speech just now was simply brilliant. 10,000 star coins for a head. Only His Majesty could think of such a brilliant idea. With a mere 10 billion star coins, you managed to destroy 1,000,000 lupus warriors. I am truly in awe of you. Tang Chou's voice was very calm, but it contained a convincing force. Belle had always been observing in the dark, so when Tang Chou's proposal passed, Belle quickly took action, and in a short period of time, recruited 20 strong martial artists. A smile appeared on Gong Qing's face. "Then I'm relieved." Tang Chou brought them to the training field and conducted extremely complicated and meticulous tests on them. There were many types of tests, many of which had never been heard of before. The martial artists were interested and curious, and everyone completed the test with great interest. They are all famous martial artists on the Heaven's Road list, but there are no gold-ranked martial artists. There are very few gold-ranked martial artists that do not have a master. Out of these 20 people, there are 3 who are ranked between 4000 to 6000 in Heaven's Road, and the rest are 17 people who are ranked after 6000. This is their information, the rest I'll leave it to you. Get rid of them. Gong Qing was delighted and his face revealed a reserved smile. If he wants to use the human wave tactic against us, then we can only accompany him. I don't know if the Lupus clan will be exterminated this time. This makes me feel uneasy. All of you have already signed the martial spirit contract. From today onwards, all of you will be teammates. Your teammates understand your weaknesses, and that is more important than understanding your strengths. Because the former can prevent you from dying and the latter can often bring you victory. Belle could clearly see that every single martial artist had an unnatural expression on their faces. A few of them were perspiring profusely, holding onto their weapons tightly. Belle was extremely surprised. Could it be that through these tests, Tang Chou had already completely understood the situation of these martial artists? A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. The Flowing Wind Group's fearsome name made these martial artists look up to Tang Chou. And with the Honorable Martial Alliance sending out a group of Blood Meridian specialists, everyone was more assured. To achieve a better battle result, we need to try out different combinations, and also need to formulate a corresponding strategy. If Tang Chou became stronger, that would be a good thing. Although up till now the dangers that the base had encountered could only be considered as daunting but not dangerous, but it still made Belle extremely worried. Especially as the Three-Spirit City received more and more attention, the number of people mixed into the Three-Spirit City also increased rapidly. Elder Zhang immediately said, "Your Majesty, rest assured the Honorable Martial Group's group of Blood Meridian specialists have already set off. They are the most experienced Blood Meridian specialists of the Honorable Martial Group. Their strength is definitely strong." Could it be that something happened to this guy? At this time, to be able to recruit such high-quality martial artists in such a short period of time, Belle's work could be said to be outstanding. Of course, the salary of these experts was also shocking. Every one of them had a settlement allowance of more than 1 billion, 20 of them would be 20 billion. But in the current Three-Spirit City, they were considered a small tyrant. Tang Chou did not look at the information in his hands, but took the lead and walked to the front. Belle was curious about how Tang Chou would train these martial artists and followed behind. Belle, who was in charge of intelligence, had a wide network of friends, and even had her own intelligence organization, but even so she was only able to recruit 40 people. The wild beasts that were roaring in everyone's hearts all ran out. They were pulling their throats, their faces were sinister, killing intent soaring. To be able to cultivate to such a stage, how could they be stupid? Three-Spirit City was like a delicious cake. Many people wanted to dip a finger into it, and looking at Heaven's Road, Three-Spirit City's strength was not considered strong. Tang Chou glanced at the martial artists behind Belle. There were roughly 40 of them. All of them were releasing their spirit chi and their strength was not bad. Now that the world was in chaos, the status of martial artists had also risen. The crux was, it was hard to recruit them. There were so many rich people. As long as you had the ability, no matter how expensive it was, people would want you. I do not discriminate against the Honorable Martial Alliance, really. Cetus' constellation immediately flared up. She felt that it was inconceivable. In her eyes, all the tests were messy and broken, and she completely did not understand their use. Kill them. Someone shouted. Belle looked at Tang Chou deep in thought. Master Bing said that Tang Chou was a staff officer type military general. Could it be that a staff officer type military general was like that? But Pai Pa often praised Tang Chou for being powerful, but the two of them seemed to quarrel more often. Su Lei, your most proficient area of attack is the area between 2m to 10m to your right. Your first counterattack, 75% of the attack, will habitually land in that area. Your powerful techniques have a probability of 83% of attacking that area. And below your left ribs is your weak point. All the Heaven Road list martial artists in front of him were like obedient students, well-behaved. TSK, a group of Blood Meridian specialists. The Honorable Martial Alliance's most experienced group of Blood Meridian specialists. When I heard the bad news, I was almost stunned. Then I suddenly reacted, they seem to be from the Honorable Martial Alliance. The Honorable Martial Alliance has Blood Meridian specialists? The Honorable Martial Alliance actually wants to compete with us in Blood Meridian specialists. So scary. Very quickly, Tang Chou let them directly feel his strength. Three-Spirit City. The defense of the base had always been a problem. Although there were layers of mechanisms and there were armies stationed in the base, but against experts, they were always in a difficult situation. If not for Tang Yi, it would have been another tough battle. Please follow me. The old men and women below all pounded the ground and laughed without a care in the world. Most of them came from Onyx Soul, and upon hearing that the Honorable Martial Alliance actually wanted to compete with them in terms of blood meridian specialists and poison, they immediately became happy. With regards to the group of blood meridian specialists, I will have to trouble Elder Gongqing said. In the blood meridian's laboratory, Bing's frivolous words that were filled with ridicule resonated out, and from time to time loud laughter could be heard. I only managed to recruit this many people, Belle said helplessly. This is enough to prove that the Ursa Major constellation is at the end of its road, and has exhausted all its tricks. They already have no other way to stop us, brave warriors of Cetus constellation. Victory is right in front of us. As long as we put in a bit more effort, the Ursa Major constellation will be ours. Any hero that expands the territory of Cetus constellation will receive a fair reward. They are trying to use bandits to stop us, but they do not know, those lowly lupus bandits will only become the souls under the blades of us Cetus constellation martial artists. Our allies, the Honorable Martial Alliance, will send out their powerful blood meridian specialists to help us obtain victory. I will announce a bounty here. Any head of a lupus martial artist can receive a reward of 10,000 star coins. Brave warriors of Cetus constellation, what are you waiting for? Immediately, it made the hearts of the less wealthy martial artists palpitate with excitement. That's right, their strength was ordinary, but no matter what, they were still stronger than the cannon fodder of Lupus constellation. Fu Yan's request for help reached Cetus constellation, and at the same time the Black Whale Army's request for help arrived. This thought flashed past her mind, but she did not think much about it. In her mind, Tang Cho was a bookworm and completely did not have the air of a military general. Giving lessons to the mechanical martial artists every day was not something a military general should do. Chapter 459. Many of the ambitious poison-related blood meridian specialists were all aiming for this point, and almost all of them were mobilized. Such an opportunity was hard to come by a second time. This is Ursa Major constellation. When the dumbstruck and shameless advertisement came out, the Onyx Soul's blood meridian specialists immediately went crazy. The few blood meridian specialists at the front all fell to the ground at the same time, and the martial artists beside them all had green faces, all of them using their true power to expel the poison. The other martial artists beside the blood meridian specialists all activated their true power barriers, protecting the blood meridian specialists inside. Pai Pa quickly skimmed through the report without raising her head. She said, I never thought that we would lose. Onyx Soul's blood meridian specialists were all eager. When the Onyx Soul's blood meridian specialists heard that, they all sneered. Countless of history told her any powerhouse, when they were all united, was extremely difficult to defeat. The majority of the Cetus martial artists had never come to Ursa Major constellation before, so they could not help but look around curiously, since the reports from the front lines were spreading like wildfire. Ursa Major constellation star door. In such a short period of time, it was naturally difficult to research out a new poison, but that did not mean they had no other methods. After being a blood meridian specialist for so many years, who did not have a few friends? When they all started to spread the news, the entire Onyx Soul system of blood meridian specialists were all alarmed. Ignoring the fact that both parties were mortal enemies fighting openly and covertly, such a good opportunity, if they let it go they would be struck by lightning. Just based on that sentence, the Onyx Soul's blood meridian specialists could not tolerate it. Poison research was not mainstream in the research of blood meridians, so the use of poison had never been widely acknowledged. The use of poison and the lack of actual battle cases made the use of poison not have much persuasion. That also caused the high-level poison's price to not be considered high in the market, and the blood meridian specialists that researched poison were mostly poor. With that, all the Cetus martial artists could no longer sit still. Previously, the bounty for a lupus martial artist was 10,000 star coins, which only moved the hearts of the Cetus martial artists who were financially strapped. But to waive 3 years of star power usage fees, even the wealthy Cetus martial artists would move without hesitation. Compared to 500,000 star coins, it was much bigger. Suddenly a gust of wind blew over. Not everyone was here for fame and fortune. Some people were here to test the actual combat ability of their works. Poison was a very different kind of work, especially those that had a large area of effect. The battlefield situation was complicated, and everyone's true power level and mental cultivation technique were different, so it was hard to determine how effective it was. Furthermore, bloodline specialists who specialize in toxins would never dare to experiment on humans. Doing so would result in a tragic death. In the crowd, a middle-aged man stared nervously at the image in front of him. When he saw the 3 bloodline specialists fall to the ground, his face lit up with joy. But following that, the other martial artists used their dense true power to dissolve the poison, causing his smile to freeze. Behind them, the tide-like whale cultivators were in an uproar. Many people revealed hesitant and cowering expressions because they suddenly realized that the situation was probably even more brutal than they'd imagined. He was dumbfounded. After a while, he subconsciously muttered to himself. Old Man Fei and the rest admired Master Bing to the point of prostrating before him, and if he said it another way, the effect would be completely different. They were immediately surrounded by countless Onyx Soul Blood Meridians experts. Uncle Bing is so sinister. So wretched. Belle's face was filled with praise. I suddenly have a feeling maybe we will win this time. So when the advertisement was spread around the various cities of Onyx Soul, it immediately struck the hearts of the Blood Meridians experts, who did not want to be acknowledged, who did not want to be rich, who did not want to be respected wherever they went. The Cetus constellation martial artists that were swarming over curiously looked around. It did not seem any different from other places. The number of Cetus martial artists that had swarmed into Ursa Major constellation was astonishing, because 2 days ago, Gong Qing had announced that as long as they killed 50 Lupus martial artists, they would be exempted from using star power for 3 years. Honorable Martial Alliance Blood Meridians experts? They were not allowed to retreat. I can go to the battlefield. This poison, its usage is unique. I am proficient in all sorts of poisons. The Cetus martial artists' expressions calmed down. The scene in front of them made them feel at ease. No matter how powerful the opponent's poison was, with such an investigation, there should not be any danger. These are the 30 types of poison that I have meticulously concocted, and I myself am an experienced poison-type Blood Meridians expert. I have rich battle experience and can adapt to different situations. And it was a proper battle and was more convincing than anything else. Was there a better opportunity than this? For this battle, the higher-ups had given a death order. Old Man Fei and the rest were all from Onyx Soul and had deep connections with Onyx Soul. Maybe because of their tempers they were not successful in Onyx Soul, but they still had deep connections. You're so confident? Belle was surprised. In the blink of an eye, in every Onyx Soul city, the poison that was gathered was piling up like a mountain. There were so many Blood Meridians experts in Onyx Soul, but not many who researched on poison. But even so, because of the huge base, the quantity was equally astonishing. The Battle of Ursa Major constellation had attracted the attention of the entire Heavens Road. If they could use such an opportunity to become famous, then their worth would definitely increase. Especially when they heard that the Honorable Martial Alliance confidently said, "The Honorable Martial Alliance has a powerful and resourceful group of Blood Meridians experts." Onyx Soul immediately went into an uproar. All of the Honorable Martial Group martial artists' faces became extremely ugly. The middle-aged man thought of something, his face once again revealing an excited smile, and flew back home. Do you think we are all dead? Seems like against high-level martial artists the poison is not strong enough. Oh, I need to think of a way to increase the purity. The cost is too high. Maybe I can add in some ingredients that erode true power. This is a good idea. All the Blood Meridians experts were equipped with specialized identifying treasures. The most common was the microscopic constellation treasure, and almost everyone had a silver grade microscopic eye. The microscopic eye was shaped like a magnifying glass with a silver handle. When true power was injected into it, the microscopic eye would shoot out a ray of light aura. Wherever the light aura shone, if there was any abnormality, the mirror would reveal small red words. The Honorable Martial Alliance's discipline was strict. All the Honorable Martial Group martial artists looked at each other, but did not retreat. They rearranged their positions and continued to advance. But even more people's gazes landed on the Blood Meridians experts dressed in the Honorable Martial Group robes. This is a hidden type poison that we have jointly developed. Its effect is not fast or violent, but ordinary poison identifying treasures are unable to identify it. I hope that this battle will be able to prove it. Suddenly, a deafening cheer came out from the mechanical weapons laboratory. Pai Pa and Belle raised their heads, looked at each other and ran towards the mechanical weapons laboratory. Who would have thought that Tang Tian and the rest would actually take the initiative to broadcast the entire process of the battle, which immediately attracted a lot of attention. The Blood Meridian's experts who had already sent out the poison were even more focused. Personally witnessing the process of the battle, it would be of great help to them in optimizing and improving. He could not wait to test out his new idea, and he definitely had to take the chance before the battle ends to produce a new product. I need to pay for going to the battlefield? Free. I promise to follow orders. As long as you guys let me participate. This thing is called gray spores. They are 100 times smaller than dust and are extremely convenient to use. They can fly with the wind and can be sent into the clouds. One bottle is just enough to cover 100 li. There are 200 bottles here, please keep them well. As there were too many people, it caused the starry door to be congested. Until Bing smiled and waved his pen to write a slogan, allowing Old Man Fei and the rest to spend money to advertise in the various cities of Onyx Soul, which immediately caused the various cities of Onyx Soul to explode. Because everyone is working so hard. Pai Pa's tone was firm. She did not shift her gaze away from the report in her hands. The amount of materials used by the mechanical weapons laboratory had reached an astonishing number. Pai Pa knew how hard the mechanical engineers worked. Every single one of them spontaneously worked day and night. No fame, no money, no status. That was the current situation of the poison-type Blood Meridian specialists. Every plaza in Onyx Soul City projected a large-scale image, allowing people to clearly see the ongoing Ursa Major Constellation battlefield. Every plaza was filled with people, regardless if it was the Blood Meridian specialists or martial artists. They were all extremely curious about the battle. Such a large-scale use of poison had never happened before in the past wars. The Blood Meridian specialists of Three Spirits City were all mobilized, and were sent to the various cities of Onyx Soul. Old Man Fei and the rest were almost going crazy. They had no choice but to use their tongues to tactfully reject the crazy Blood Meridian specialists. In the end, the Blood Meridian specialists could only leave unwillingly, leaving behind a large amount of poison. The Honorable Martial Alliance did not go back on their words. They truly sent out a large group of Blood Meridian specialists, numbering in the hundreds, and every few meters, there would be a Blood Meridian specialist. All of the Blood Meridian specialists carried out a dragnet type of inspection, and advanced forward like a white chain. After a moment, the green aura on the faces of the Honorable Martial Group martial artists that were poisoned previously receded, and they returned to normal. But the 3 Blood Meridian specialists who were on the ground were already dead. Only in such a real battlefield could they produce the most authentic proof. Beside every Blood Meridian specialist, there were a few high-level martial artists following closely. They were vigilant to prevent any sudden attacks. You worked your heart out, you forgot to eat and sleep, and used a genius concept to create a world-shocking masterpiece. You believe that it can change the world, you believe that it is priceless, you believe that it can leave its name in the history books. But it quietly lies in a dusty corner and no one knows about it. You are unable to prove how good it is in battle. You are vexed that you do not know how to prove its greatness. Come and participate in this grand battle. The first poison battle in history. The cruelest battle, the pinnacle battle, is about to begin. In the name of poison and greatness, Ursa Major Constellation respectfully awaits the arrival of your masterpiece. Chapter 460. The 3 armies abandoned all the cities. The 3 armies formed a triangle, resonating with each other, advancing in a rolling manner. Their target was clear. They pounced straight for Tang Tian at Bear Egg. The Mo family was placed in the base, and the first thing they built was not a house but a Mo family workshop. For the Mo family to become a mechanical aristocratic family, naturally they had their own unique mechanical techniques, and the Mo family workshop was one of them. For example, around them, a hero could not fight against numbers. Grandmaster Ajin Sin, who was equipped with gold star treasures, finally fell to an unknown poison. This poison was called Grandmaster's Kiss, and became famous. And its inventor Hall truly became famous in one battle. and was immediately absorbed by Onyx Soul to become an elder, and the price of his Grandmaster's kiss went from 10,000 star coins to 1.5 billion star coins, which no one cared about. In the second week, the number of casualties had already exceeded 12,000 people, and the blood meridian specialists that the Honorable Martial Alliance had just reinforced had their numbers reduced. The opponent's poison was varied and was continuously improving, and the blood meridian specialists of the Honorable Martial Alliance were unable to handle it. But at that time, even the strong Honorable Martial Alliance were unable to invite a blood meridian's grandmaster. No one was willing to become the target of public criticism. Xianxia used his life to help Hall's reputation. In the darkness, there were countless people waiting to become the new Hall. They were like hungry wolves with green eyes. Mo Wei Tian personally supervised. He was half naked, his expression solemn as he looked around, checking on the progress. This is normal in a war, a powerful and singular method. There will definitely be a way to counter it. And you have already completed the mission for weeks. That is enough. Bing's eyes flashed with a cold light. The entire Cetus constellation was once again filled with confidence. All the powerhouses that were paying attention to the war were all thinking about how to deal with the situation. There was nothing in the world that was invincible, although the poison was powerful, but there was definitely a way to counter it. With that, Old Man Fei turned and left. Ursa Major Constellation's poison warfare, no one expected it to be so powerful. Now in Onyx Soul, poison-related blood meridian specialists were extremely popular. Their statuses had increased, and all the big powerhouses were extending their olive branches. Everyone knew that it was impossible for them to fight another poison war like this again, but everyone wanted to keep a few poison bloodline specialists in their hands, so that they wouldn't be killed unknowingly. Their strengths were all outstanding and their experience was plentiful. Upon training, they could immediately feel Bing's tactics and how strong they were. Old Man Fei knew that Bing was right, but his mood was not good and said gloomily, "I will go and research and see if there is any way to break the King Kong wall. Everyone's mission is complete. We've stalled them for 4 whole weeks. These 4 weeks are very precious to us." On the third week, the Honorable Martial Alliance used a large sum of money to invite the famous Blood Meridian's Grandmaster Xianxia, who knew that he would attract the passion of the Onyx Soul Blood Meridian specialists, and all sorts of new and strange poisons were sent to Old Man Fei and the rest. In the 4th week, the casualties of the Cetus martial artists decreased sharply, and the 3 armies that were unable to move finally started to advance. "Our poison is useless now." Old Man Fei was slightly depressed. The silent deaths in the video were shocking and frightening. Bing did not stop them. It was a good thing to be ambitious. Wars required open and above-board battles, and also required all sorts of new and novel methods, and a partial advantage was the foundation of an overall advantage. What could be better than stepping on a grandmaster in front of everyone's eyes and becoming famous in one battle? It was an ugly mechanical spirit weapon, but under its metal body that was still burning with residual heat, Mo Wei Tian could feel a strong pulse. After so many generations, the Mo family workshop had finally produced the strongest mechanical spirit weapon of this era. In the short span of 2 weeks, the number of martial artists that died was close to 20,000, causing the majority of the people to feel a chill in their hearts, and the thought of retreating emerged. And when the group of roughly 1,000 people suddenly fell down without a sound, like wheat being cut down, never to rise again, the fear that was triggered immediately caused a wave of star return tide. Gong Qing's face had aged a few times. Bing even specially ran over to console them. After 4 weeks, they had finally established an initial level of tacit understanding, although Tang Chou was still extremely unsatisfied, but they were somewhat eager to try. Is this the pulse of this era? All of these unorthodox martial artists finally deeply felt what was called professionalism. In the past, all of the so-called tactical grandmasters that they had met, the tactics they designed were simply crude compared to Tang Chou. Ursa Major Constellation's battle had sunk into a stalemate, and more than 80% of the Cetus martial artists had already returned to Cetus Constellation. Although 3 years of star power usage was attractive, but compared to their lives, what was it? Without the help of the poison, the lupus martial artists' bandit-like harassment became much weaker. Although the 3 armies still had casualties, but the number of casualties had already reached the lowest level since the start of the war. Countless people sighed, countless people were extremely jealous, countless people were eager to try. In the Cetus constellation palace, the atmosphere was heavy. Suddenly, Su Lei, who had the best six senses, quivered and quietly gestured to everyone. Because it was specially designed for them, they trained extremely quickly, and the few types of tactics that they trained were all like fish in water. What they needed to strengthen now was the tacit understanding between them. Many years later, when countless people talked about that scene, their eyes would still be filled with deep fear. Every battle report in front of them, the scarlet red numbers, were all dripping with blood. It was a ghastly sight. When Mo Wei Tian saw the newest mechanical spirit weapon that had just been formed, with the Mo family workshop symbol, Mo Wei Tian's tears almost flowed out. A small method, but it caused the situation of the battle to suddenly change and cause a huge change. Everyone was startled, and then their eyes lit up. The deep foundation of the Honorable Martial Alliance was undoubtedly displayed at this time. The ancestors of the Mo family had long understood, in the era of the decline of mechanical weapons, low-end mechanical weapons, mechanical beasts were the most mainstream products. Towards low-end products, cost control was undoubtedly the line of life and death. After many generations of accumulation and research, the Mo family finally formed their own unique production method, and that was the Mo family workshop. Old Man Fei and the rest were all gloomy in the previous battle. They still held the upper hand, who knew that in the blink of an eye they would be broken. King Kong Wall was a broken martial technique. It was not profound at all. It formed a layer of compressed true power around the human body. Compared to other true power barriers, it was even more substantial. No matter how outstanding a Blood Meridian's Grandmaster was, if they were to come out at this time, they would become the prey of the hungry wolves. Every tactic was meticulously calculated and designed, even the flaws and traps inside were meticulously arranged. He touched the black and rough mechanical spirit weapon. The mechanical spirit weapon was still warm from when it was forged. The surface of the spikes had not been polished, it had not been painted and had not been beautified. But in Mo Wei Tian's eyes, it was like the most perfect work of art, causing him to be deeply infatuated. Although the three armies had not lost contact, but the losses of the three armies were extremely severe. Ursa Major Constellation was fighting like a raging fire. Why was there no movement here? Three Spirits City Bronze Base. Every small group's tactics training manual was completely different. And following the training, they could feel it even more clearly. After 4 days, the 20 martial artists were all in admiration of Tang Chou. In just 3 days, Tang Chou had confirmed all of their arrangements. The 20 of them were split into 5 small groups. This was nothing, but what made them feel inconceivable was, in a short span of 2 days, Tang Chou had given every small group at least 60 pages of tactics training manual. Mo Wei Tian suddenly had a heroic spirit. I will let you all experience the full power of the Mo family workshop. And the King Kong Wall formed by the army, although it was not enough to defend against attacks, but to prevent poisons, it was extremely effective. The Mo family workshop had a set of unique mechanical manufacturing methods, which allowed them to control their cost to a very low level. It was because of this, that in the era where mechanical techniques declined, one after another mechanical aristocratic families withered, while the Mo family was safe and sound. All of these experienced craftsmen were the Mo family's greatest wealth. 3 Spirit City. Elder Zhang clenched his teeth. We need to get rid of 3 Spirit City first. Without 3 Spirit City, Ursa Major Constellation will not have a fulcrum, and we can focus on dealing with Ursa Major Constellation. King Kong Wall, an unorthodox and shallow martial technique. It could form an airtight true power barrier around the body. It was discovered to be able to effectively block 90% of poisons. This method, after being suggested by an elder, was immediately perfected. Especially armies under the control of military leaders could easily form a large-scale King Kong Wall. The 20 of them were so scared that they almost cried. Unless the King Kong Wall was trained to an extremely profound level, its defense was actually useless. Although the King Kong Wall was sturdy, it lacked elasticity, and to clash head-on with head-on defense, it would cause people to vomit blood. But this layer of King Kong Wall that was as hard as porcelain was extremely effective against poisons. And for those poison-related blood meridian specialists who had proven themselves in the war, their value had skyrocketed to a shocking level. It had been a long time since the Mo family was so busy. Ever since the Mo family workshop was built, It had never truly been fully operated. But the Mo family did not have any complaints. It was their first battle and also a battle of life and death. And seeing the scarlet molten iron, seeing the bustling scene, every single Mo family member's face was brimming with fighting spirit. How many generations of Mo families dream? The Mo family workshop was brightly lit. The voices of people were like a cauldron, the rumbling of the mechanisms, sparks flying, the scarlet molten iron meandered. The air was filled with the heat of metal. The muscular craftsmen, all of their true power lit up with light auras. The metal hammers that were even bigger than his body, all of them accurately struck the same position of the components. Some of the craftsmen had serious and focused expressions, holding onto fine knives, cutting the bronze components. The bronze threads were like shavings. Every knife was perfectly straight like a ruler drawing. In the first week, there were already over 4,000 Cetus constellation martial artists dead. The Honorable Martial Alliance was much smaller, especially the high-level martial artists. Only 67 of them died, but the Blood Meridian Specialist Group had lost close to 70%. Cetus Constellation no longer had an optimistic mood. Everyone realized the war had already slipped into a situation that they had no control over. Those who were prepared to reap a fortune had all returned dejectedly, and in that moment, Cetus Constellation actually sank into a slump. Chapter 461. Fight. Fight. What he did not know was that not far away there was a pair of eyes watching them closely. Tang Chou was engrossed, his expression was focused. Saints were a powerful individual force and had a huge influence on the battle, and in the future he would have to face them. Only his eyes were filled with madness and determination. His eyes turned cold and his figure suddenly disappeared. Jing Hao suddenly stood up, his face was first shocked, then his eyes revealed a look of suspicion. But after a few seconds he suddenly understood, it was Crazy Tang. The platform was smashed into pieces. Star power erupted. Damn it! He casually extended his 5 fingers and suddenly flicked the sword tip. The towering bronze city walls were brightly lit, and through the thick and sturdy walls he could hear the shouts of training coming out from inside. His expression became cold again. To him, the towering city walls did not pose any difficulty. He was like a wisp of smoke quietly flying up the city walls. His 5 fingers were like hooks. Without any changes, they were as fast as lightning. An unprecedented miserable shriek, filled with incomparable pain, but with an indescribable sense of bitterness, solemnity and determination. Jing Hao quickly retreated. The expanding sword whirlpool was like a tornado, shredding everything around it. The ropes inside the bear egg were instantly shredded. Countless of ropes flew in the air and were shredded even more. His body was still trembling like a sieve. Suddenly, like a wild beast that had smelled its prey, he raised his head and turned his head. Clang. Even the pain from tempering his martial spirit was unable to stop the anxiety in his heart. He could not wait to stop and fight alongside everyone else. The coordination between all of them was obviously planned, and they have some standard. Jing Hao retreated over 30 m. The sword whirlpool storm was still expanding at an astonishing speed. The star power continued to pour in, causing the concentration of Ursa Major constellation's star power to plummet. The sword whirlpool storm had completely swallowed the bear egg, and everything was being smashed into pieces by the sword whirlpool storm. On a small hill about 50 kilometers away from the bear egg, the 3 saints watched the enormous sword whirlpool storm, their faces ashen. What a good example. Jing Hao retreated again. I can't stay here and train and watch you guys fight. I can't do it. The crazy and reckless screams were heart-wrenching. Ding. Wen Jiang smiled bitterly, but his steps were still firm. He couldn't refuse any of her requests. He stayed by her side and watched her grow up, become a wife and have children. He thought that he would be there for her until she passed away. At that time he would become her gravekeeper. Wen Jiang didn't panic in the slightest. He flicked and blocked with his palm. His moves were clearly extremely simple, but the power behind them was extremely shocking. But after 5 or 6 moves, Wen Jiang sensed that something was wrong. Not far away, Jing Hao, who was meditating to protect Tang Tian, suddenly opened his eyes. He sensed something strange from Tang Tian's screams. What was going on? His opponent was clearly slower by half a beat. He only had time to use the copper rod in his hand to block the front of his body. However, his 5 fingers suddenly turned from hard to soft. As gentle as the wind, they strangely brushed past his opponent's copper rod and stabbed straight into his opponent's chest. Is this fellow still human? Fist Saint Do Yong stammered, his face pale. He felt as if he was struggling in the ocean. One moment he was in the water, the next moment he was floating on the surface. The constant feeling of suffocation and muddle-headedness was like instinct. Jing Hao was shocked into a daze. The tempered martial spirit was like a tentacle wrapping around the sword aura. It was as if his hand was holding onto the sword's edge. The shocking pain was like a tide, causing him to almost faint. That pain did not come from anywhere. Instead, it went straight into his heart. It was a pain that directly affected the martial spirit. Every detail of the pain was so clear. His consciousness was in a blur. He was swallowed by the torrential pain. His body trembled continuously. His face was not as ferocious as before, and his tightly shut eyes seemed to have relaxed. Ah. Long Shou Jing looked at the enormous sword whirlpool in the distance. He was dumbstruck. Beside him, every martial artist was trembling. Their faces were filled with deep respect. I beg you. You must kill her. In the shabby little house he felt a few faintly discernible auras. Fight. He was still in a daze. The direction he was facing was the small hill where the 3 saints were hiding. Tang Tian's screams were extremely mournful. He praised in his heart. Seems like 3 Spirit City's security was much tighter than he thought. But the 8 people surrounding him did not move him. The reason why he chose to sneak in was to save himself some trouble. Since he could not sneak in, then he would just barge in. There was no difference. Then Sai lay. Inside the chaos there was a faint voice. So painful. I really want everyone to try it. He quietly floated down from the city wall. His body seemed to be weightless. He gently landed on the ground. Not even a speck of dust was raised. Bai Cici's beautiful face lost color. She turned and asked to Yu Ming, Brother He, the whirlpool sword's spirit tempering technique, does it have such power? I know at this time I should wait for the tempering to be completed. I know at this time there is no room for error. That is more rational, that is more reasonable. The citizens of the new Bear Head City were alarmed by the strange sound. They all came out. Ah. Seeing the gigantic figure in front of him, even the strong Jing Hao could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. A rapier had unknowingly pierced towards him. The rapier martial artist at the side mustered his true power and anxiously supported him. Tang Tian's senses of the outside world was already completely cut off. The whirlpool sword storm was extremely dense and he could not see anything. Only the light aura of the desolate bare bone above his head was like the sunlight that pierced through the clouds, shining down, causing him to feel a trace of warmth. Anyways, I am crazy. All of you can mock me if you want. But when danger is approaching, to see all of you blocking in front of me, I can't do it. A piece of white paper was placed in front of him. On it was a title, Key Tactics to Restrain a Saint Rank. The whirlpool sword's rotation speed continued to increase. The astonishing number of sword auras continuously swept past Tang Tian's martial spirit. Every sword aura would cause Tang Tian's martial spirit to tremble. The whirlpool sword rumbled. I have not forgotten her. His martial spirit was completely enveloped by sparks. Skid. When the whirlpool sword's speed continued to increase, dazzling sparks exploded around his martial spirit like fireworks. His body bent over, trembling violently like a sieve. Very stupid, right? A look of fear flashed past Yu Ming's eyes. He only felt that his mouth was dry. I have never heard of this before. Inconceivable, truly inconceivable. How is this possible? This person inside, isn't he going to be minced into meat paste? In the next second he appeared in front of one of the martial artists. Out of the 8 of them he was the strongest and was just a step away from being a saint. But the step away from being bestowed as a saint was like the difference between heaven and earth. The bear egg size was astonishing, and the whirlpool sword storm size had already swallowed the bear egg. Tang Tian could feel everything that was happening outside. Battle. The delicate voice was filled with sorrow and fear. He could do anything for her. Bing, who had just brought back a batch of poison from 3 Spirit City, was stunned by the scene in front of him. An immense power suddenly exploded out like a raging wave. The sword tip crumbled inch by inch. and the martial artist thrusting the sword flew out as though he was struck by a heavy blow. For hundreds of thousands of people to stop training, there could only be one possibility: something had happened. Tang Tian's heart was burning with anxiety, but the whirlpool sword storm did not show any signs of stopping. Tang Tian. When Jiang was surprised, the speed of the sword was not bad, but a pity it was fast and powerless. Very quickly he sensed that the whirlpool sword storm was changing, it was accelerating. But a pity. Maybe I will die this time. I heard that Three-Spirit City is very strong. Inside the bear egg, a super whirlpool sword storm was quickly forming. Sparks flashed. The desolate bear bone flew above Tang Tian's head, the star power suddenly becoming extremely dense. The martial artists in Heaven's Road who were observing the sky were surprised to realize that the handle of the Big Dipper in the blue dome of heaven had quietly shifted. His figure was hidden in the darkness, his chi was not revealed at all, not even the vibrations in the air. He moved along the shadows, it was light and powerless, but his speed was extremely fast. He could see everything that was happening below, his eyes were extremely sharp. His heart was already as hard as stone, but thinking about the scene before him, his heart was still in pain. He did not see Sai Lei. But in that moment of delay, the other martial artists took the chance to move forward. They were truly alert. Killing one person or killing a city of people, in his eyes, there was no difference. Bear egg. Even the viciousness was so similar. It was a simple and clean move, but it was difficult to be so fast and to be able to change it as one wished. Even the strong gold rank martial artist would be in danger after one move. He had just landed and realized that he was surrounded. His thoughts paused for a few seconds before he slowly adapted. He could only adapt. The pain of entering the martial spirit was unable to divert his attention to ease it. The past was dug out. The little girl who was chased out had turned into a mechanical grandmaster engineer. That old man actually wanted to use Xianxia's life to exchange for Sai Lei. That was something he could not sit and watch. He knew that he had no chance to get close to the old man, although he was already a saint, but the Yifan family's foundation was extremely deep. Suddenly a spark lit up. Tang Tian's martial spirit trembled intensely. The extreme pain in that moment caused Tang Tian's mind to go blank. It must be hidden in a deeper place. Ah! Bang! Tang Tian's eyelashes trembled. After a while he opened his eyes in a daze. In just a few moves, when Jiang felt as though he had fallen into a spider web, his techniques were becoming more and more difficult to execute, as though there was a formless restriction around him. His gaze was cold. To him, there was only one person in the world who could not die, and that was Xianxia. He recalled the events of the past, the woman who looked somewhat similar to Chu Shi, the woman he loved deeply. Before she died, she entrusted the baby girl in her swaddling clothes to him, forcing him to swear an oath to protect the baby girl for a lifetime. When everyone was fighting, how could I just watch from the side? After 4 consecutive days, the lupus martial artists did not return. Tang Tian understood that the situation was extremely dangerous. His restless heart calmed down. The sword aura wrapped around his pupils, flashed a look of determination. Chapter 462. This time Tang Chao's character had become even more stubborn and resolute. Compared to before, he was even more outstanding. Tang Chao was right. Everyone's path was different. Saints were being deconstructed and analyzed in his eyes. In every confrontation on the battlefield, every detail was dismembered into data in his mind. He was dumbstruck. He was very familiar with the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. As a swordsman, he had a considerable understanding of all kinds of sword techniques. The whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique was hailed as the cruelest spirit tempering technique. How could he not know? Not only did he know about it, but he had also specially studied it for a period of time. He who was determined to create his own martial path was filled with interest towards any extreme techniques in sword arts. Run, Yu Ming said straightforwardly. This was the true power of heaven and earth. The 3 of them suddenly split up and flew in 3 different directions. Even if it was a gold-ranked martial artist under this song, if it was light, their blood vessels would expand, their heart would run wild, and if it was heavy, they would explode and die. Why don't you try it first? Yu Ming's eyes were filled with encouragement. Those gaudy and shocking attacks were like clothes being peeled off layer by layer, becoming the most primitive state in his eyes. Fate was truly unpredictable. A trace of seriousness flashed past Jing Hao's eyes. He raised his sword and moved like the wind, following closely behind the moving sword tempest cyclone. Is it coming for us? Do Yong asked in a daze. This order made them feel very strange, but they still obediently watched from the side. Magic Flute laughed helplessly and floated away. Magic Flute gently advised, "Your killing intent is too strong." What is he trying to do? Three Spirits City. Will old he die? Bai Cici was worried. Bai Cici gritted her teeth and the sound of the zither changed. The calming song of peace and peace instantly became beautiful and seductive, making people's blood boil. The heavenly maiden roar, which was created with reference to the heavenly demon chant, was the most bewitching, creating many illusions. Is this really the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique? You want to save him? Do Yong asked. His body trembled as he took a small step forward. The figure in the center of the storm staggered. Those blurry memories floated up in his mind. Emotions and sighs flowed out from the accumulated years. These words struck a chord in the hearts of the other two. Clang, clang, clang. Bai Cici looked at the surging whirlpool sword storm in shock. After a long while she spat out, "What kind of monster is he? Today I stand alone in the wind and play the 7-layer kill again." There were very few saints who lived alone. Most of them had a family behind them. Even if they did not have a family, they still had a disciple to inherit their legacy. The three of them could already feel the storm whirlpool formed by the countless sword gleams behind them, the ripples created by the frenzied slicing of the air, that power even saint-level martial saints felt a chill down their spines. Run. Do Yong simply turned around and ran. As the wind blew, both of them felt a chill. The sound of the guqin seemed to have a soothing power and the whole world seemed to calm down. This was the Tensi song. This was Bai Cici's most famous song. It was a combination of Sanskrit singing and soul calming. It was the best at calming people's hearts. The three of them could clearly feel the whirlpool sword storm behind them stopping. Let's see what you can do now." The three of them heaved a sigh of relief at the same time, and the whirlpool sword storm only paused for a second, before chasing after He Yuming without hesitation. Bai Cici had a look of hesitation. Jing Hao's heart was in a perilous state. Bai Cici immediately came to her senses and immediately took out her white jade guqin. Without caring about her image, she hugged it with one hand, and her right hand's 5 fingers slid across the strings. "Is it over?" Magic Flute asked. "It's possible," Bai Cici said. "If Tang Tian did not die under such a strong whirlpool sword storm, then his martial spirit will definitely be tempered to a terrifying level. It is only a matter of time before he steps into the saint level, and it will be very soon. And once he steps into the saint level, his martial spirit that is far stronger than others, will make him even more terrifying." Bai Cici shook her head. "No, I am thinking of where to burn incense for him." The whirlpool sword storm swayed as though it was drunk and slowly moved towards a direction. If Tang Tian did not die, then Cetus constellation would definitely lose. Although they were saints, but that did not mean they did not need to think about the future. To obtain victory and forgive the other party's actions, such a king's style only existed in books, and even more overlords liked to settle scores after the fall. In the past there were 3 saints that caused many casualties to Lei Ang's army, and after the defeat the 3 saints wanted to escape, but were directly surrounded and killed by Lei Ang's army. Jing Hao was dumbstruck. This thing can move. A general's success is built on the bones of tens of thousands. If I want to become a famous general, how can I not kill people? Tang Chou said without raising his head. He was collecting the papers on the table. Not only do I want to kill people, I want to kill a lot of people. Damn it. The whirlpool sword storm increased its speed again. A faint voice like a whisper in the wind. Do Yong looked at the desolate wilderness and suddenly said, "I have a bad premonition. Your Majesty's decision this time might be wrong." Do Yong muttered to himself, "I have never seen such a weird person before. I am thinking if Tang Tian did not die this time, would he become like Lion King Leong?" The pressure on the 3 of them increased. But Bai Cici's words caused him to become silent. Just like that time, singing to one's heart's content, a song of flowing time. The 3 saints on the hillside were dumbstruck. The wind caressed his face, causing his hair and clothes to flutter. He flew up to the tallest tower of the base and could see the entire base. He caressed the shiny copper flute in his hands, his warm eyes were deep and tranquil. The whirlpool sword storm was extremely huge, rumbling and rumbling as it approached. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even though the three of them had stepped into the saint ranks, but facing such a terrifying power, they still felt their hearts palpitating. The whirlpool sword storm that was like rain shuddered like a tall pile of building blocks that suddenly received an impact. With a tremble, it looked as though it could collapse at any time. Jing Hao, who was standing nearby, could see it clearly. Countless of sword auras flowed down like an avalanche, bringing forth a scalp-numbing sword hiss. Fight. Let's run. Bai Cixi said straightforwardly. The two of them became silent again. The three of them sprinted, their speed was extremely fast. But the whirlpool sword storm that seemed to be drunk behind them also increased its speed. The rumbling sounds behind them did not get further away but instead got closer. Don't tell me you have enmity with the saints? Magic Flute chuckled, his smile was like a spring breeze. Do Yong looked at Bai Cixi, somewhat surprised. Bai Cixi had a cold personality. It was the first time Do Yong had heard her speak so much in one breath. Seeing He Yuming leading the whirlpool sword storm away, disappearing into the horizon, Do Yong and Bai Cixi, who had flown far away, returned the way they came, both of them rejoicing. Bai Cixi remained silent. Tang Chou had just said that from the other side of the base came the sounds of intense fighting. But please don't let anything happen to you. I never thought that after dying for so many years, I would actually have the chance to become even stronger. Young Master was like a painting standing in the wind, his white robes fluttering. Damn it. The whirlpool sword storm is chasing even faster. He Yuming's face turned white, his scalp went numb. He could no longer care about his suave image. Activating all the true power in his body, he spread his legs and sprinted with all his might. After a few minutes, Jing Hao regained his senses from the shock. Alright, as long as it was something related to Tang Tian, if it did not change beyond recognition, if it did not become strange and perverted, then that would be truly strange. The value of this fellow's existence was most probably to make the world abnormal. Rumble rumble. Whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. I have never heard of it being able to move. This thing has always been used to temper the martial spirit. And not to run around after drinking. The battle at the corner had alarmed everyone. Everyone was stunned by Wenjiang's strength. 20 high-leveled martial artists surrounded and killed Wenjiang, but Wenjiang still looked to be at ease. His bewitching gaze was frantically writing. Piece after piece of paper filled with pictures and words were continuously being completed by Tang Chou. Although I do not wish to trouble you, but this time we need time. Tang Chou said coldly, you better do it well and properly shock the small fry. After a moment he raised his head and looked straight at Bai Cixi. What do we do? 20 people actually could not do anything to Wenjiang. Many of the mechanical martial artists who were training were prepared to provide support, but very quickly, everyone received orders from above, not to make a move. Do Yong looked at the two of them. If we do this, it will be a little embarrassing. At least the three of yous are saints. Bai Cixi's beautiful eyes also looked at Do Yong. The wind seemed to be getting colder. Magic Flute silently appeared behind Tang Chou, not disturbing him. Ah Chou truly foresees things like a god. Magic Flute exclaimed. Tang Chou's position was extremely good. He could see every detail of the battlefield. His eyes lit up with a bewitching light aura. He was completely focused. The brush in his hand was writing at an astonishing speed. Yes, it's over. Tang Chou stretched his back, his bewitching gaze regaining its coldness. This time we have obtained sufficient data. I need to study it properly. What do we do? Do Yong asked straightforwardly. This monster is definitely coming for us. Split up and run. He Yuming shouted. Seems like it. He Yuming's expression was sluggish. The white paper in front of him was filled with all sorts of pictures. Every corner was filled with words. Those seemingly ordinary martial techniques in Wenjiang's hands were shockingly powerful. Cici, use your zither. He Yuming shouted. Tang Chou suddenly stopped, threw away the brush in his hand and asked without turning his head, "Why are you here?" "I will burn incense for him." Do Yong swore. With a sigh, young master restrained himself, his eyebrows drooped and his eyes closed, the copper flute placed horizontally on his lips. The two of them were speechless. I am a spirit general destined to become a famous general. Saints are my opponents. Tang Chou then reminded, you have to be careful, we have caused the Honorable Martial Alliance to be in such a difficult situation, they will definitely think of ways to deal with us. Such a good opportunity, they will not miss it. Even if it was a berserk 9th level star spirit beast after a song, it would fall asleep peacefully. Chapter 463. What spirit domain is this? So soft, I want to sleep. The opponent is a saint. Blind court old man Zhang Ming, he did not place him in his eyes. This kind of martial artist who was at the bottom of the Heaven Road list naturally did not attract his attention. Adding that he was old, he did not have much potential to grow and was barely a guard. Zhang Ming, his expression was calm. The martial artists beside him were all elites of the family. The attack on Cetus Constellation was pushed by his uncle, but no one expected that it would be stuck in a deadlock. They wanted to force him back. When the flute sound came out, Zhang Ming, he was still indifferent, until he suddenly realized the dusky sky behind young Master Magic Flute had actually turned blue and he quivered. Dual Reverse Will was a pure offensive spirit domain and did not have any defensive capabilities. Suddenly, a flute sound came out, causing him to stop in his tracks. He raised his head at the top of the tower. A white-robed figure entered his vision. Two martial artists screamed in pain and were directly flung out. Gentlemen, please listen to the 7th kill, Heart Without Worries. He was like a celestial being from a painting. And 3 Spirit Cities advertisement in Onyx Soul had also spread to the Honorable Martial Alliance, and everyone thought that they had to first pull out this nail. To force Ursa Major Constellation to compete with them in terms of strength, they had to cut off all of their evil methods. They originally did not care about Wen Jiang and thought that he was just a nameless person, but they did not expect that an elder would recognize Wen Jiang's identity. Wen Jiang was a saint and Zhang Ming, his own strength was also close to a saint. Zhang Ming, he did not believe that the small 3-spirit city could defend against a saint and a half-step saint at the same time. Furthermore, he had 4 gold-ranked martial artists by his side, and all of them were the essence of the Zhang family. Ever since Tang Tian appeared out of nowhere and obtained the title of Honorable Martial Alliance Whetstone, the geniuses of the Honorable Martial Alliance gradually faded out of everyone's sight. These geniuses, who were originally complacent, were greatly shaken, and all returned to their homes to train. When Zhang's eyes released a cold glint, he knew he had to rush in front of the opponent, and only in close combat could he unleash the power of his spirit domain. The saint who was once famous but suddenly disappeared immediately made the Honorable Martial Alliance excited. In a short period of time, he unleashed 4 completely opposite martial techniques, and the 4 completely opposite auras were forcefully stacked together. When Jiang could clearly feel the pervasive flute sound, frantically corroding his spirit domain. Upon losing the protection of the spirit domain, he could only wait helplessly. These proud sons and daughters of the heavens were all stifled in their hearts. Since when had their limelight been stolen by a poor boy from the countryside? But Tang Tian's battle achievements were real. He had forcefully seized Ursa Major Constellation, and the rumors of Tang Tian defeating saints had been spreading. But Zhang and the others had their own information channels and knew that the news was true. Zhang Ming, he felt that the strategy to attack Cetus Constellation was feasible. He had also asked 7th Brother about it, and 7th Brother felt that it was a good plan, and the chances of success were high, and it would be of great help to the later battles. To the chords Ming of the dual reverse. Once the Honorable Martial Alliance became serious, their terrifying information-gathering capabilities would immediately be displayed. The grievances between Sai Lei and the Yifan family surfaced, and they even knew that the Yifan family patriarch had requested Sai Lei's father to apologize to Sai Lei. Including Chu Shi's rage at home and Wen Zhang's actions after that were all seen by them. The flute sound was melodious, and young Master Magic Flute's face was filled with joy and satisfaction. He had forgotten about the past and only felt an indescribable satisfaction, an indescribable happiness. He sat on the grass, and the soft grass made him feel even more comfortable. It was a pity that Tang Tian was not around. If not, he could spar with Tang Tian, and that would not be a wasted trip. I also have my own obsession. Bang. But Zhang Ming, he thought that it was just a small trick. War had always been a competition of true strength. And following the spread of the King Kong Wall, they finally struggled out of the quagmire. Zhang Minghe's heart was filled with fighting intent. With his current strength against a weaker saint, he still had a chance of winning. And according to what he knew, the saint that Tang Tian defeated was also a saint that did not have any improvements after being bestowed as a saint. He was curious about young Master Magic Flute, the once extremely famous music grandmaster. His entire life could be said to be a legend. No one knew exactly how strong he was. Between many martial artists, they were mutually contradictory, mutually conflicting, and were unable to be used together. But his spirit domain was able to perfectly switch between them. Lone Wolf when Jiang. I got hit. But so what if he is a saint? He vaguely remembered that he had something to do, but no matter how he thought, he could not remember. Very quickly, the vague impression disappeared and his face had a satisfied smile, and he just wanted to sleep like that. He was extremely confident in the upcoming battle. The dual reverse wheels only had one use, but its might was astonishing. It went against the basic common sense of martial techniques, and was the complete opposite of martial techniques. The trouble it brought to the enemy was simply a disaster, especially for close quarters combat. It was extremely powerful. But a pity it was just an incomplete spirit general. The sound of the flute was pervasive, causing Zhang Minghe's face to suddenly reveal a blank look. But after a moment he quivered, and after a while he became bewildered again, and this repeated over and over again. It was extremely strange. Although the opponent was not as strong as him, but the two of them definitely gave it their all and did not hold back at all. The ancient trees reached the sky, the lush green grass, the warm sunlight, the azure blue sky with floating white clouds, the colorful flowers blooming, the sparkling and translucent lake in the distance, and the beautiful sound of the flute lingering in his ears. The sound of the flute was indescribably beautiful, causing Zhang Minghe to be dazed for a moment. All the worries in his heart vanished like smoke. He faced the empty space in front of him and struck out with lightning speed. 1 tune 7 deaths. He had long completed the first 6 tunes, only the 7th tune he was not satisfied. For the 7th tune he had racked his brains for the 7th tune and almost went berserk until he died. He finally perfected the true 7th tune. Who knew the battle would still end up in a stalemate that the Zhang family did not want to see. Ursa Major Constellation used a poison battle to tell Heaven's Road how to use poison on the battlefield. I never thought that I would have the chance to be able to blow it. It is good. The light around him rapidly changed. Zhang Minghe's appreciative gaze immediately became cold. He completely disregarded the surrounding martial artists, soared into the sky, and shot towards the magic flute at the tip of the pagoda. When Jiang rushed out of the cave with his face covered in dirt, and heaved a sigh of relief. Zhang Minghe looked as though he was taking a stroll in the park. He was extremely confident and at ease. The intense explosion caused him to be unable to stand steadily, but the illusion in front of him had blasted out a gray hole. But compared to the dazzling Tangtian, they were still dim. A cold intent surfaced in his heart. If not for the star treasure protecting him, he would most likely be dead. He grabbed onto the puppy ornament tightly. The ordinary-looking puppy was actually an item of great origin, Canis Minor Constellation's gold star treasure, Rui Dog. As one of the 10 equatorial palace halls, how could Canis Minor Constellation's gold star treasure be ordinary? The name, Rui Dog, sounded extremely beautiful, but in truth, there was an ancient Yin King Hound's martial spirit sealed inside. With the nourishment of the star power every day, it was even more ferocious and powerful than before. Zhang Minghe used his blood essence to raise it and was connected to his heart. An illusion-type spirit domain required time to form, and he could not give the opponent any time. When Jiang raised his head, his gaze like a sword pointed straight at Magic Flute, who was at the top of the pagoda. When Jiang's eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness, seeking death, Zhang Minghe's entire body trembled, his face revealing a look of pain, but he immediately struggled out of the illusion. Zhang Minghe squinted his eyes. The Honorable Martial Alliance's intelligence on Three Spirits City was very thorough. Three Spirits City had very few strong martial artists, but they had 2 sound-type martial artists, Blind Cord Old Man and Young Master Magic Flute. Seeing that when Jiang had infiltrated Three Spirits City as expected, the Honorable Martial Alliance immediately took action. Zhang Minghe did not make a move. In his eyes, these small fries were not worth his time. The reason why I am not willing to dissipate is because I want to play it. That is, Young Master Magic Flute. The hole was quickly shrinking, when Jiang did not care about anything else and rushed towards the hole. The Honorable Martial Alliance's research on star treasures was unparalleled, but using blood essence to raise star treasures was an extremely unorthodox method. But such an extremely dangerous method had an obvious effect. When Jiang heard the sound of the flute, he was like a cat that sensed danger. All the hairs on his body stood. He was a saint, and his intuition was many times sharper than Zhang Minghe. Damn it! The beautiful tune rippled out from his copper flute, and threads of light aura like smoke slowly flew out from the copper flute. All these colorful lights floated in the air, like seeds sprouting and growing. The green grew into trees, the red grew into flowers, the blue blossomed into the sky, and the gold grew into the sun. Magic Flute continued to play with his eyes closed. The threads of light aura floated towards him. Their families were illustrious, they had sufficient resources, and they themselves were talented, and now that they were willing to work hard, their strength would soar by leaps and bounds. Zhang Ming, he secretly shook his head. Tang Tian was truly a waste of resources. To him, a spirit general like young Master Magic Flute was used to fight against enemies, and was not strong. Using him to charge and break through enemy lines would not be of much use. For a spirit general like young Master Magic Flute, the most suitable person should be a teacher. With so many rare ancient music scores, with a unique understanding of music, it was the light and heat that this crippled spirit general could unleash. He was about to take action and get rid of the few cannon fodder, when his face suddenly changed. Saint! Zhang Ming, he exclaimed in his heart, and then a faint regret surfaced in his heart. Such a pity, it was not his own spirit general. A few martial artists fiercely pounced over. When Zhang's surroundings lit up with a black light aura, that was his spirit domain. Dual inverse wheel. In this region he could attack as he wished, and when he switched between martial techniques, there would not be any hindrance. When Jiang whistled, his 4 limbs in the air moved at the same time, 16 different colored light auras, accurately landing on the blade and sword. 1 blade and 1 sword, lit up with dazzling light auras, appearing at the cave entrance at the same time. Suddenly, a small dog accessory on Zhang Minghe's waist suddenly lit up with a dazzling light aura, and a smear of gold light aura drilled into Zhang Minghe's body. Before he could retreat, his surroundings changed. The lively scene in front of him was serene without any killing intent, but it caused his scalp to go numb. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.